Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new audiobook. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 81 World of Great Controversy. Do you have a predestined relationship with my Buddha? Ning Chen looked at the monk in cassock in front of him, without thinking too much, shook his head and refused, "Sorry, I already have a teacher." After hearing this, the old monk was not angry, closed his eyes tightly, smiled kindly, and continued to persuade, "Almsgiver, you have a deep connection with Buddhism. Only by going back to Changsheng Temple with the old monk can we save the common people in the world with Buddhism and Taoism." Hearing this, Ning Chen shook his head. The old monk smiled and said, "Why did the benefactor shake his head?" Ning Chenshin replied, "The road to the Great Road leads to the same goal. Buddhism and Taoism are also Tao. Why go to Changsheng Temple to save the common people in the world?" The old monk said, "Changsheng Temple has always taken the mission of spreading Buddhist thoughts. Buddhist thought is more suitable for today's troubled times. Now, the world of great controversy is coming. If we want to save the common people from suffering, I am afraid that only our Buddhist sect can do it." The world of controversy. Ning Chen was puzzled and said, "What is the world of great struggle?" The old monk did not answer directly, but said with a smile, "Buddha said, don't say it." Ning Chen shook his head heartily. For him, everyone has their own way in their hearts. Just like this monk, he believes in Buddhism. There is nothing wrong with that either. Immediately, he bowed slightly to the old monk, and wanted to leave and go to the next place. Keep preaching. Seeing this, the old monk did not try to persuade him to stay again. He shook his head and sighed. Unfortunately, he is the most suitable person to inherit the position of Buddha's son, but he has different ideas, so he can only give up. After finishing speaking, he disappeared in place, as if he had never appeared. At this moment, in the thatched cottage, Qin Tianan came here. Looking at Lu Changsheng, whose limbs were so weak that he was slumped on the bamboo chair, he couldn't help but helplessly said, "Don't you think it's too wasteful to do this every day?" Lu Changsheng rolled his eyes, and said weakly, "I think it's more wasteful to give them lectures." Qin Tianan. "Okay, sit down and tell you something." Lu Changsheng didn't move, like a salted fish, closed his eyes and said, "Let's just say it like this." Seeing this, Qin Tianan had nothing to do with him, so he could only hate iron for steel and said, "Something happened to Yi Chubai in the general hospital." "An accident." Lu Changsheng regained his energy slightly, and asked, "Who did that kid provoke again?" Qin Tianan looked a little angry, and told the whole story. In the end, it was Senior Yun who came to the rescue, so that kid Yi Chubai didn't suffer. After listening, Lu Changsheng collapsed again, and said, "Isn't that all right?" Qin Tianan stepped forward, pinched Lu Changsheng's ear, and said angrily, "You bastard, Senior Yun saved Yi Chubai. As Yi Chubai's master, why don't you thank him?" Hey. Lu Changsheng got up hurriedly, and said speechlessly, Go later, let me rest for a while. Going right now. Quote. Looking at Qin Tianan's angry look, Lu Changsheng nodded and said, Go to the head office, I'll go now." After speaking, he disappeared in place. Qin Tianan looked in the direction of the Northern Territory, shook his head, and said, "This kid." But before he finished speaking, Lu Changsheng appeared in front of Qin Tianan again, scratching his head and said, Uncle Qin, where is the Beiyou Tibetan Taoist Academy?" Qin Tianan. After Qin Tianan pointed out the direction for Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng just left. Qin Tianan said helplessly, "Why does this kid look so unreliable?" On the other side, Sunset Dynasty. Today, in the palace hall, Huang Tianming, as well as the ruler of the country, Huang Tong, are all here. The news is true. Huang Tianming's face was gloomy. He nodded and said, "It's true, Huang Zhengzhan died at the hands of Yi Chubai." Hearing this, Huang Yideng also nodded, and looked at Huang Tianming with dissatisfaction in his eyes. With the strength of Qi Si realm, he killed Zheng Zan. Similarly, he also killed Tian Pin, who was a strong player in the four regions martial arts list. It can be said that Yi Chubai has already shown his edge. Listening to Huang Yideng's unemotional words, Huang Tianming couldn't help but tremble in his heart. He knew that the father was already angry at this moment. Huang Tianming immediately knelt down, cupped his fists and said, "Father, give me a little more time. I will definitely cut off that Yi Chubai." Time. Huang Yidong turned around, looked at Huang Tianming who was kneeling on the ground, and said indifferently, "I have given you a lot of time, but you let me down too much. Yi Chubai has become a big trend now. Not only is the non-Yu Tibetan Taoist Academy standing behind him, but he also has the support of Zhangzong Yunjing, and I am afraid that the General Tibetan Taoist Academy is also supporting him now." Hearing this, Huang Tianming was shocked. The general court. How is this possible? Huang Yidong had disappointment in his eyes, and said, "Don't you even see this? Since Yi Chubai was able to kill Huang Zhengzhan in front of Zhou Shizhong, the head of the law enforcement hall, it also means that the general court is more inclined to Yi Chubai. It can also be said that those people have recognized Yi Chubai's talent." Hearing this, Huang Tianming turned pale. If it is said, it is really as Huang Yidong said. The possibility of killing Yi Chubai by himself will infinitely approach zero. Not only has the support of Zhangzong Yunjing, but also the favor of the General Academy. You know, the strength of the General Academy of Tibetan Taoism Academy is far better than that of the Sunset Dynasty. Even if the emperor is unified, he would not dare to offend him. So what should I do now? Huang Tianming already felt helpless. Huang Yidong looked at Huang Tianming, sighed secretly, and said, "Nowadays, it is impossible to seek peace. Leave it alone, let me do it." Hearing this, Huang Tianming didn't feel lucky, instead his face turned even paler. He knew that his father had given up on him. The repeated defeats have caused him to lose his status in Huang Yidong's heart. My identity as the successor of the next king is probably hanging by now. At the same time, in the yard, Zhang Chan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he heard the news. But when he thinks of his current relationship with Yi Chubai, he looks sad again. The other side. Hongying is in a big mountain. Deep. Here is full of mountain spirit. Is the core of the mountain. After all, this mountain is transformed into a sanctuary of the ancient mountain. Hongying looked at the extremely weak soul in front of her. The soul is sometimes real and sometimes empty. Your Majesty, the world of great controversy will begin. Please be sure to get all the old minions together and rebuild the Yunwang Empire before then. In this way, we can fight the heavenly road again. Hearing this, Hongying nodded. The way of heaven has collapsed, and if you want to leave this world and go to a higher latitude, you can only go through the way of heaven. And those who guard the way to heaven are extremely tyrannical. The Yunwang Empire was destroyed when it was fighting the heavenly road. Now the world of great controversy is reopening. Hongying must seize this opportunity. Chapter 82. You just want more. Beiyou Tibetan Taoist Academy. Although the ranking is now the second. But the background is still there. The overall strength is still stronger than that of the Southern Tibetan Academy of Taoism. The top combat power is also more than that of the southern region. After all, there is a sword sect like Yunjing who ranks 7th in the 4 regions martial arts list. Now, the back mountain of Beiyou Tibetan Taoist Academy. This is the forbidden area of the academy, and no entry is allowed without the consent of the dean and the elders. This is also Yunjing's training place. At a waterfall, Yunjing sat cross-legged beside the waterfall. After 2 incense sticks, a sword intent erupted from Yunjing's body. Yunjing also opened his eyes suddenly at this moment. In the eyes, there are wisps of sword light shooting out. Suddenly, a boulder in front of him was hit by the sword light. In an instant, it fell apart. At this moment, in front of Yunjing, a young man appeared. Yunjing was shocked, and immediately raised his sword, pointed at the man, and slashed out with a sword. The man didn't expect that the other party would attack directly. One finger popped out, and one finger turned into a sword, and landed on Yunjing's shoulder. And this blow landed on Yunjing's shoulder, causing his hand holding the sword to tremble instantly, and the sword came out of his hand. This surprised Yunjing. With his current strength, not many people can do this. And the other party just snapped his fingers, which made him feel irresistible. If this is a full shot, will he still be an opponent? Yunjing couldn't help thinking so. So he asked, "Who is your excellency? What are you doing here?" The man exhaled and said, "I just came to thank you." "Thank you." Yunjing put away the sword, looked puzzled, and said, "I don't remember any friendship with you." Yi Chubai is my apprentice. The person who came was Lu Changsheng, who was forced by Qin Tianan. Thinking of this, Lu Changsheng felt a little uncomfortable, and said helplessly, that boy Yi Chubai is thanks to your care. Hearing this, Yun Jing suddenly understood, but he was also surprised. Yi Chubai's master. He has long wanted to meet. It must be extraordinary to be able to teach such outstanding disciples. Yun Jing immediately clasped his fists and said, Senior, you are serious. Yi Chubai is not only my apprentice's benefactor, but also helped him comprehend the sword intent. The talent and character are even more excellent, so I want to help him. Lu Changsheng. Senior. You look so young. But this Yunjing looks like an old man, probably much older than him. Thinking of this, Lu Changsheng said helplessly, it is still necessary to say thank you. What do you want? Or is there anything you need me to do? Yun Jing immediately waved his hands and said, no, it's purely my help to help Yi Chubai. Senior, you also know that sword cultivators act out of their own hearts. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng was not happy. He doesn't want to owe favors. If you have a favor, you have to pay it back immediately, otherwise it will cause karma in the future, wouldn't it be more troublesome? For Lu Changsheng, as long as there is even the slightest threat to his salted fish, retirement life, he must resolutely put an end to it. For example, do not owe favors. Lu Changsheng said with a serious face, no, I must thank you, otherwise I will feel uneasy. Why don't I give you some elixir? After finishing speaking, Lu Changsheng threw out a jade purification bottle and gave it to Yunjing. There are 5 of them, and each one exudes an extremely simple atmosphere. Extremely scary. Yun Jing couldn't help being startled when he saw it. These elixirs were something he had never seen before, and at the same time, among the elixirs he knew, none of them could match the breath given by Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng said, these elixir can restore the aura in the body in an instant, are they useful? Recover aura in an instant. Yun Jing was taken aback when he heard the words. This is more than useful, it is so useful. It can be said that this can save one's life at the moment of life and death. Yun Jing immediately waved his hand and said, this is too precious. I can't take it. Lu Changsheng's expression froze. Not enough, right? Then I'll carve another formation for you. After finishing speaking, he flipped his palm, and formation flags appeared around the waterfall. Just in the blink of an eye, a formation is formed. Suddenly, in the northern territory, the aura seemed to be a little thinner in an instant. And in the formation, the aura seems to have become thicker. Yunjing just took a breath, and felt that his cultivation speed had increased several times. Feeling this change, Yunjing couldn't help but look frightened. Is this a formation? What kind of formation can have such a terrifying effect? I'm afraid even the guarding array of their Beiyou Tibetan Taoist Academy can't match it. Only Lu Changsheng knew. This formation is actually a simplified version of the spirit gathering formation in thatched cottage. Senior, this is too precious, I can't take it. What don't you want? You just want more. Lu Changsheng became impatient, and said, aren't these enough? Yun Jing said in a daze, it's not that it's not enough, but it's really unnecessary, senior. It is a lie to say that I am not moved. Facing this heaven-defying pill and formation, Yunjing is already very good at keeping calm. But looking at Lu Changsheng's appearance of swearing that you won't give up if you don't accept it, Yun Jing could only sigh and said, well, senior, I still haven't understood a little about kendo, just explain it to me. Yun Jing was afraid that if he did not agree, Lu Changsheng would come up with something shocking. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng was taken aback, why don't you take these? Kendo. He knows how to beat it. Okay, then you can ask. Yunjing was overjoyed when he saw this, and said, senior, let me demonstrate it to you first. After finishing speaking, before Lu Changsheng could speak, Yun Jing took out his sword and began to demonstrate the skills he practiced. The first form is to use the body as a sword. The second type, using eyes as swords, is Jianyuan. The third form uses the heart as the sword. Yun Jing was still unable to comprehend. This also caused his cultivation to stagnate. After the demonstration, Yunjing looked at Lu Changsheng with a look of expectation in his eyes, and said, senior, is there a solution? Lu Changsheng. Solve. How do I know? But using the heart as the sword. Doesn't this conflict with the previous, eyes as swords? The scene seen with the heart is definitely different from the scene seen with the eyes. Lu Changsheng thought for a while, and tried to say, do you want to give up using your eyes as a sword? Give up the eye as a sword. Yun Jing was taken aback when he heard the words. Immediately, he seemed to think of something. With a serious face, he immediately sat down cross-legged. After a day has passed, Yun Jing's breath rose. Eyes are not open, but the sword intent is constantly wanton in this space. Extremely sharp. It seems to be able to cut everything. At this moment, even if Yunjing didn't open his eyes, he could still feel the changes in the world. As long as the mind moves, the sword will arrive instantly. This is the heart sword. Take the heart as the sword. Chapter 83 The Woman at the Foot of the Mountain. Yunjing realized. When he heard Lu Changsheng's words, he abandoned Jianyan. Feel the sword with your heart. And this approach is nothing more than breaking and then building. Looking at this scene, Lu Changsheng couldn't help being speechless for a while. He said it casually. I realized it again. Is my mouth really that powerful? Yun Jing opened his eyes at this moment, and his eyes were clear. Immediately, he walked forward, with a serious face, and respectfully said to Lu Changsheng, thank you, senior. You know, he has been stagnant in this exercise for an unknown amount of time. Now, under the guidance of Lu Changsheng, after the breakthrough, it is natural to be extremely pleasantly surprised. At the same time, I also respect Lu Changsheng even more in my heart. This sentence gave him an epiphany. How strong is this understanding and strength of kendo? As expected of the person who taught an apprentice like Yi Chubai. Looking at Yun Jing's eyes that became more and more admiring, Lu Changsheng looked confused. What's wrong with this? Okay, since the goal has been achieved, then I will go first. Lu Changsheng still wants to go back and sleep for a while. There are no beds here, and no incense or anything. I'm not used to sleeping. Hearing this, Yun Jing hurriedly said, I'll see you off, senior. Stay here and stay here. After speaking, Lu Changsheng disappeared in place. Left the northern territory. Looking at the back of Lu Changsheng leaving, Yun Jing couldn't help sighing, no wonder Yi Chubai wanted to reject me at the beginning. After finishing speaking, Yun Jing also walked towards Beiyu Tibetan Taoist Academy, where the dean was. Came here. Wood was taken aback when he saw Yunjing. Old Yun, why are you here? Generally, Yun Jing would not come here. After all, in his heart, there is only swordsmanship. I am not interested in things like the school of management. When Yun Jing looked at Wood, he reminded, in the future, when Yi Chubai has something to do, he must help if he can. Wood was stunned for a while. Yi Chubai. Why is Mr. Yun so interested in this son? In Wood's eyes, Yi Chubai is nothing more than an extremely talented young man. Within the scope of ability, I don't mind helping Wood a little. After all, it is also good for them to befriend a young man with such a talent. However, the tone in Yunjing's words is more inclined to help if you can, and to bite the bullet if you can't help. This made Wood a little puzzled. Yunjing said lightly, don't worry about it so much, you just have to remember, help Yi Chubai, then our Tibetan Taoist Academy will have a fortune. After speaking, Yun Jing left the place. Woodshi's eyes were serious after listening. Although he didn't hear the reason, Wood still firmly believed Yun Jing's words. Another half-month passed. The rankings of Yi Chubai and the Land of 100 Refinements climbed again. At a jaw-dropping speed, they came to the 5th place. At this moment, Yi Chubai has been able to challenge the Qianyuan realm monster on the 40th floor. Although it is only the early stage of Qianyuan realm. But you must know that Yi Chubai is only at the middle stage of Qixi realm now. If you want to enter the 41st floor, you must challenge the cave guards. Yi Chubai was not in a hurry, but walked out of the training ground. He needs to absorb some of the insights from these days. Some things cannot be rushed. Just like Dao Ji, Yi Chubai can break through to the late stage of Qixi realm at any time, but he can suppress it. He wants to make the road base more stable. Only in this way can we go further. I don't know if my current points are enough to enter Chudao Mountain. Yi Chubai now has 1230 points in his hand. It includes ranking rewards and rewards for killing monsters. He wanted to enter Mount Chudao to consolidate his understanding. Under the guidance of others, Yi Chubai came to a forest. It is said that at the end of the forest is Chudao Mountain. And the forest is full of fog. I can't see my fingers. Yi Chubai followed the route and walked forward. Gradually, the fog ahead began to slowly fade. A small courtyard. As Yi Chubai walked forward, it gradually appeared in front of his eyes. And behind the courtyard, there is a mountain. Although the mountain looks nothing special. But if you feel it carefully, you can feel that there are indistinct and obscure Taoist flows. Obviously, that is Chudao Mountain. But at the bottom of Chudao Mountain, there is actually a small courtyard. Who can live here? Yi Chubai shook his head, didn't care, and walked towards the mountain of seeking Tao. Between the small courtyard and Chudao Mountain, there is a small stream separating it. The stream is extremely clear. Just when Yi Chubai wanted to jump over, he saw a white-haired woman not far away. The face of the woman is not like that of a mortal woman. Clear and bright pupils, curved willow eyebrows. The long eyelashes trembled slightly, the fair and flawless skin revealed a light pink, and the thin lips were as delicate as rose petals. However, there are layers of ice mist around the woman. When the woman's jade feet lightly tapped on the water, the stream froze instantly. This made Yi Chubai a little curious. Slowly walked over. What kind of physique can do this? The white-haired woman found Yi Chubai walking over, and said softly, "Don't come over, or you will be in danger." Hearing this, Yi Chubai was taken aback. Danger. Just close, what danger can there be? The white-haired woman obviously saw Yi Chubai's doubts. With a bit of bitterness on her face, she said, "It's because of my physique. People and things close to me will be instantly frozen into ice, cutting off their vitality." Hearing this, Yi Chubai was slightly startled. What kind of physique is this, able to be so domineering? However, seeing the unspeakable sadness between the white-haired woman's brows, she couldn't help saying, "Then you must be living very lonely, right?" Finish these words. Yi Chubai was shocked. If it was normal, he wouldn't care about a woman he didn't know, let alone say such things. But this white-haired woman is different. There seems to be something in his body that is attracting him. Lonely. Hear what Yi Chubai said. The white-haired woman froze for a moment, stroked her long hair by her ears. "I'm used to it." "Then what are you doing by the river?" The white-haired woman looked at the surface of the water that was frozen because of herself, and there was a small fish in the surface of the water. Blushing slightly, with a little shyness, he pointed to the frozen little fish and said, I just want to eat grilled fish. However, my constitution cannot light a fire." Hearing this, Yi Chubai couldn't help laughing. What are you laughing at?" Yi Chubai shook his head and walked over. "Hey, don't come here, you will die like this." Yi Chubai smiled and said, "Try, if it doesn't work, I will back away." After speaking, Yi Chubai walked towards the woman in white step by step. Slowly, walked into the ice fog. And at this time, Yi Chubai's whole body unexpectedly had a sense of endless life, enveloping him. Keep that ice fog out. It is the Sword Sutra of Absolute Beginning! Exclamation mark. Chapter 84 Chudao Mountain, Zhanfeng. The Sword Sutra of Taichu. It contains the meaning of endless life. And it is this sense of endless life that keeps the layers of ice fog out. Yi Chubai didn't feel the slightest chill. While seeing this scene, the white-haired woman opened her mouth slightly, and asked in a daze, "How did you do it?" Unless you are a strong person, you can barely get close to her. But it will still be affected. The Dean of the General Academy, who ranks third in the 4 regions martial arts list, will be affected when approaching her. Yi Chubai is like a normal person. Yi Chubai smiled and said, "Because my exercises are quite special." Special skills. Yi Chubai nodded, then looked at the frozen little fish, and said, "You said you want to eat grilled fish." The white-haired woman looked at Yi Chubai and nodded, her bright eyes were full of expectations. Seeing this, Yi Chubai thought for a while, squatted down, covered his hands with the meaning of endless life, and then grabbed the frozen little fish. A fire was raised. Of course, the fire was also covered by Yi Chubai's breath, and was not affected by the white ice mist. Yi Chubai peeled off the fish's scales. Take out the internal organs. Immediately, he took out bottles and jars from the ring. These seasonings are all made by Master himself. What is it called? Soy sauce, cumin powder. After these days, Yi Chubai has also figured out these seasonings when cooking for Master. Would you do it? Beside him, came the delicate voice of the white-haired woman. After listening, Yi Chubai smiled and said, "Wait and eat." After the fish was processed, it was grilled on the fire. Watching this scene, the white-haired woman squatted down by the fire, resting her hands on her chin, blinking her eyes, and her long eyelashes moved like a small fan as the eyelids closed and opened. After a while, bursts of fragrance came out. Seems to have smelled it. The white-haired woman's eyes seemed to light up, and her tone was a little eager. She said, "How long? How long?" Yi Chubai saw that it was almost done, so he handed the fish to her. "Here, let's eat." The white-haired woman took it with both hands, looked at the steaming grilled fish, and eagerly took a bite. Huh, hot hot. Seeing this scene, Yi Chubai couldn't help laughing. "Eat slowly, no one will compete with you." While exhaling, the white-haired woman said, "It's delicious, I haven't eaten hot food for a long time." Hear this. Yi Chubai couldn't help being taken aback. Immediately thinking of the problem of the white-haired woman's physique, she couldn't help but remain silent. "You should have reached the realm of Bigu, right?" The white-haired woman blushed slightly, and said, "It's the realm of Bigu, but I still like to eat, especially those hot things. But it's been a long time since I ate. So, thank you very much." Looking at the grateful eyes of the white-haired woman, Yi Chubai smiled. "If you want to eat in the future, just come to me." The white-haired woman was overjoyed when she heard this, but immediately became dim again. "I can't go out at will. There must be the breath of Mount Chudao to suppress this ice fog." Yi Chubai glanced at the Taoist mountain in front of him, and said, "It's okay, then if you want to eat, send me a message, and I'll come and make it for you." "Really? Real?" The white-haired woman nodded vigorously. "Are you going to seek Taoism?" Yi Chubai nodded. The woman in white said, "You are a swordsman, so when you go in, remember to go behind the sword's edge. There is a stone wall there, and there is a sword feeling recorded on it. Whether you can get it depends on your chance." Hearing this, Yi Chubai was taken aback. "You know Chudao Mountain very well." The white-haired woman smiled. "Of course, let's go." Subsequently, the two exchanged names. Yi Chubai learned that the white-haired woman's name is Mu Ziqing. "I don't know if Master can solve her physical problem. It should be no problem. After all, I feel that there is no master who can't. Go back and ask when the time comes." Came to the foot of Mount Chudao. Here, Yi Chubai can feel that there is a faint barrier of restriction. If you trespass without permission, you will probably be bombarded to pieces by this forbidden barrier. There is no heavy guard here. There was only one old man sitting on a chair with his eyes slightly closed. Yi Chubai walked up to him, cupped his fists respectfully and said, "Senior, Yi Chubai from the Southern Region Tibetan Taoist Academy, wants to enter Chudao Mountain to practice." The old man stretched out his hand. Did not speak. Yi Chubai was taken aback for a moment, then reacted, and handed the point stone to the old man. The old man crossed 1,000 points on it, then threw it to Yi Chubai, saying, "The time limit is half a day, once the time is over, it will be automatically sent out." After speaking, there was no sound again. 1,000 points only half a day. Yi Chubai shook his head slightly, bowed again, and walked into Chudao Mountain. At this moment, the old man slightly opened his eyes. Great swordsman, with a mysterious skill, good talent, it seems that the academy has a good seed. It seems that the world of great controversy is really coming. After finishing speaking, he closed his eyes again. Seek Taoism in the mountains. Yi Chubai felt the breath in it. Whether it is a flower or a grass, a tree or a leaf, there is a sense of morality flowing. Yi Chubai couldn't help but sigh with emotion. No wonder the people in the General Academy are so much better than those in the southern region. Yi Chubai didn't stay here, but ran towards the sword edge that Mu Ziqing said. Yi Chubai only focuses on kendo. For him, swordsmanship is his way of practice. Practice kendo to the peak, and you can also set foot on the peak. When Yi Chubai thought so, the Qingyun sword seemed to let out a sword chant. At the same time, waves of kendo breath flowed silently in Yi Chubai's body. But Yi Chubai didn't feel all of this. Zhanfeng. As the name suggests, the whole mountain is like a sword, straight into the sky. Yi Chubai felt a sense of sharpness when he stepped into it. This is the sword intent. Yi Chubai was slightly startled, and continued walking forward. A stone wall at the back. A man stood with his sword in his arms, looking at the stone wall in front of him. He didn't move for a long time. Even if Yi Chubai walked over, he didn't waver at all. Seeing this person, Yi Chubai didn't bother him, and also looked at the stone wall. There are no special calligraphy and paintings on the stone wall. There are only sword marks one after another. Deep and shallow. In every sword mark, there are sword intents with different strengths remaining. It seems to be immortal. Yi Chubai looked at the sword marks and closed his eyes. In the sword marks, the sword intent seemed to flow towards Yi Chubai. A series of sword intents, like threads, surrounded Yi Chubai layer upon layer. And this change made the man next to him look over. Shocked eyes. Yi Chubai himself didn't know about this. Lu Changsheng is here, so he probably knew that it was the Hunyuan sword body that played a role. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 85 Sword Domain. Seek Daoshan. Zhanfeng. According to legend, there is a big secret about sword repair hidden here. Even the members of Yinjianzong did not hesitate to spend a lot of money to enter Chudao Mountain and come to Zhanfeng Shibi for enlightenment. At that time, the previous dean of the General Academy was negotiating terms with the suzerain of the Hidden Sword Sect. Conditions are as follows. Every 10 years, Hidden Sword Sect can send a disciple to come here to learn about Zhanfeng Stone Wall. At the same time, the Tibetan Taoist Academy can also send a disciple to the Sword Tomb of the Hidden Sword Sect to understand the will of the ancestors. Sword Tomb. When the Hidden Sword Sect's strong men fall from generation to generation, their sabers will return to the sword mound. The remnants of the sword intent, as well as the perception of the way of the sword, are what sword repairers have been looking for in their entire lives. And, according to rumors, in the sword mound of Yin Zhanzong, there is a saber of the sword master realm. This is also one of the reasons why countless sword cultivators yearn for the Yin Zhanzong. At the moment, beside Yi Chubai, the man holding the sword was also attracted by this strange movement, and looked over. His eyes were surprised. You know, he has been here for 3 full days. There is no change. It's just that the perception of kendo in my heart is a little deeper. However, it is definitely not like Yi Chubai, who just arrived, caused such a change. The sword intent contained in the sword marks on the stone wall flowed towards him as if attracted by Yi Chubai. And at this moment, Yi Chubai closed his eyes tightly. In his sea of consciousness, an old man with uncertain reality appeared. Oh, it's been a long time, and finally someone who is suitable for this seat's inheritance has appeared. Yi Chubai looked at the old man and asked, is the stone wall an inheritance left by the senior? The old man stroked his white beard. Although his figure was ethereal, his eyes were very energetic. Yi Chubai felt a sword intent flowing in it just by looking at it. That's right, I just didn't expect such a long time to pass. Yi Chubai asked, where is the senior at the moment? Hearing this, the old man smiled and shook his head. After the battle that year, I have already died, and what remains here is just a residual idea. The battle that year. He remembered being in the blood prison secret realm before. What the heavenly demon sword master said to him. What happened in that battle? There will be so many strong people who will fall one after another, and the inheritance will become extinct. The old man seemed to see Yi Chubai's doubts, and explained, back then, the way of heaven collapsed. If you want to step into a higher realm, you must enter a higher dimensional universe. And if you want to leave this world, you have to fight the road to heaven. How can the road to heaven be so easy to walk? Back then, the Yunwang Empire recruited all the strong people in the mainland and launched an unprecedented general attack on the road to heaven, but it ended in failure. And it was that battle that led to the fall of countless strong men. Among them, I am included. Heaven collapsed. Conquer the heavenly road. Yi Chubai was puzzled. The old man looked at Yi Chubai and said, it's normal that you don't understand the relationship. After all, the level of you today is not enough for this secret. When you reach my level, you will naturally understand that in the eyes of Tianlu and the people outside, we are nothing but a group of ants. Yi Chubai asked back, how strong were the people on the road that day? Hearing this, the old man sighed, with serious eyes in his eyes, and said, when I face them, I don't feel any resistance. Yi Chubai was shocked. The old man in front of him has no power to resist in the face of Tianlu. What about master? So far, Yi Chubai can't see through the strength of the master. Okay, you will know all this later. The old man waved his hand and said, since this idea of this seat has appeared, it will not exist for too long. You can accept as much inheritance as you can. And I see you, you have the aura of the heavenly demon sword master on your body, you should have practiced the heavenly demon sword art. Yi Chubai nodded. Semicolon. Since this is the case, there is no need to learn the sword technique of this seat. The heavenly demon sword technique has been cultivated to the extreme, and its power is not weak. Speaking of which, the virtual and real figure of the old man turned solid at this moment. Flipping his palm, in Yi Chubai's sea of consciousness, one after another, sword intents crisscrossed. Take the elderly as the center, covering all around. Yi Chubai was under the sword intent. It seems that there are threats everywhere, as long as you make a slight move, you will be wiped out by the sword intent all over the sky. The old man chuckled and said, since you don't lack sword skills, then I will teach you this method. Such methods were created in my later years by combining my lifetime of kendo perception with my whole life. The domain is generated by countless sword intents, and in this domain, all enemies have nowhere to hide. Its sword intent will also move with your thoughts, making it impossible for the enemy to defend against. I call it, sword field. Yi Chubai's heart skipped a beat. If you are facing the enemy, use this sword domain. When facing his attack, the enemy also needs to beware of the attack of Jiuyou. Its power is infinite. If the enemy is not careful, he will be destroyed in this sword field. The eyes of the old man were full of arrogance, and he said, next, how much you can comprehend depends entirely on yourself. After speaking, the old man disappeared. However, that sword domain still exists. At the same time, in Yi Chubai's mind, information about the sword domain also flowed in. Yi Chubai began to understand. In the outside world, Yi Chubai's whole body also underwent shocking changes. That sword intent went straight into the sky. Make a sound of sword chant. The man with the sword in his hand looked at this scene with astonishment in his eyes. Could it be that this is the inheritance left in the stone wall? Who is this person? When he first arrived, there was a change in the stone wall, and now, he is accepting the inheritance, which surprised the man. However, he didn't interrupt Yi Chubai, nor did he continue to comprehend. Now, the sword intent on the stone wall has disappeared. All that remains are ordinary sword marks. And at this moment, seek at the foot of Mount Dao. The old man opened his eyes, and there was a flash of light in those cloudy eyes. Oh, interesting, it seems that the kid has a good chance. After finishing speaking, he sent a sound transmission through the air, and said in a direction, the quota will be given to the boy from the southern region branch. At this moment, Zongfeng of the General Hospital, this is where the dean is. Hearing the old man's voice transmission, the dean was taken aback, but he didn't question the old man's decision, nodded and said, I will arrange it. Seeking Daoshan Zhongfeng. There is still a stick of incense in half a day. Yi Chubai opened his eyes at this moment. The sword intent burst out. Keeps turning around him. And the men on the side were also surrounded by this sword intent. This is the inheritance. Yi Chubai gave a soft drink, and the domain of sword intent erupted immediately. Everything around was torn apart by the sword storm at this moment. The man was in it and was not attacked by the sword domain. Seeing this, Yi Chubai was quite satisfied, put away the sword field, and looked at the man holding the sword. Seeing this, the man holding the sword stepped forward and said, Yin Zhanzong, Liang Feng. Yi Chubai returned to his identity. On the other side, in a wilderness. In front of Hongying's eyes, was a dilapidated city. The walls of the city are in dilapidated condition. However, the two words engraved on the city gate are still clear. Yunwang. Chapter 86 Yunwang Former Site. Here was the former site of the Yunwang Empire. Hongying looked at the ruins in front of her, with a hint of firmness in her eyes. Once upon a time, the Yunwang Empire is the ruler of this continent, not one of them. After collecting all the forces and fighting the Heavenly Road, the Yunwang Empire, and even the entire continent, suffered a fatal blow. Countless sects, aristocratic families, and secret clans perished. The strong fell one after another. Inheritances annihilated in the long river of history. However, Hongying did not regret fighting the Heavenly Road. At that time, the strength of this continent had reached its peak, and the realm could no longer be broken through. If they don't go to the world of higher latitudes, they can only wait for the years to pass until they die. And those who practice Taoism, who doesn't pursue eternal life, who would be willing to grow old and die like this? Hongying was not reconciled. The other secret sects were also unwilling. This is the Battle of the Heavenly Road. A war waged against the guardians of the Heavenly Road with the power of the whole continent. Beside Hongying, Yunming respectfully said, Your Majesty, there is only one person missing from the Nine Heavens Department, so we will all gather. Hearing this, Hongying nodded. The last member of the Nine Heavens Department is the one who commands the Yunwang Guards. Similarly, it also ranks in the Yunwang Empire, ranking third in strength. Cloud Battle. Second only to Hongying and the people under the Great Master. As for Yun Zan, the physical body was destroyed in the battle against the Heavenly Road. Due to the special cultivation method, his soul is still guarding the former site of the Yunwang Empire. That is the ruins in front of you. Hongying said. Let's go, follow me in. Yunming nodded. Yi Chubai has now been forcibly sent out by Chudao Mountain. At the foot of the mountain, the old man was still lying on the bamboo chair. Yi Chubai bowed to the old man, and then prepared to leave. Go to Zongfeng, the dean is looking for you. Hearing this, Yi Chubai was taken aback for a moment, then nodded and left the place. While passing the stream, Yi Chubai walked to the small courtyard. Mu Ziqing seemed to have sensed Yi Chubai's arrival, opened the courtyard door, and said with a smile, Have you gained something? Yi Chubai nodded and said, I have gained a lot, and I have to thank Miss Mu. Then, he said, I will ask Master about your physique, he should have a solution. Your master. Mu Ziqing tilted her head, and said, But I have this physique, even my parents, they can't do anything about it, they can only temporarily suppress it. Yi Chubai said with a smile, Master's ability is beyond the sky, he should have a way. Immediately afterwards, Yi Chubai said that the dean had something to do with him, so he left. Mu Ziqing looked at Yi Chubai's leaving back, and couldn't help smiling wryly. The people in her family are all capable. Even if it is all the forces in the Central Territory, the background is not as good as her family. But even they can't help it. What can Yi Chubai's master do? However, Mu Ziqing didn't say anything. In these years, she has already accepted her fate. Shaking his head, he returned to the courtyard. Come to Zongfeng. No one stopped Yi Chubai on the way. All the way to the entrance of a hall. Just walk to the door. The dean's voice came out of it. Yi Chubai, come in. As soon as the voice fell, the door opened. Yi Chubai walked in, looked at the dean who was handling affairs at his desk, and asked, Dean, what do you want me to do? The dean didn't raise his head, and said with a light smile, Why, I can't find you if I have nothing to do. Yi Chubai replied without humility, I have never met the dean, and now you are looking for me, and it is definitely not for small talk. Hearing this, the dean raised his head and looked at Yi Chubai carefully. As the third person in the four regions martial arts ranking, the younger generation will always be very cautious when they see him. Otherwise, he would be oppressed by that invisible force. Can't even stand up straight. You can look back at Yi Chubai. Do not be humble, do not say a word, do not have the slightest tension, and the back is still straight. Dean nodded slightly, said, It is indeed something, you should have heard of the Hidden Sword Sect, right? Hidden Sword Sect. When Yi Chubai came to Central Region, he heard Qin Tianan mention it. It is the most respected place for sword repairers in the world. Our Tibetan Taoist Academy had a deal with the Hidden Sword Sect. Every 10 years, they will send a disciple to each other to practice in the secret realm of the other sect. The secret place of Tibetan Taoism Academy is Chudao Mountain, and you should have met that disciple of Yinjianzong. Yi Chubai nodded upon hearing this. It was the man holding the sword. The name is Liang Feng. The dean continued, he was sent by the Hidden Sword Sect this time, but we haven't sent anyone over this time. Yi Chubai's heart moved, so, the reason why the dean called me here is for this matter. The dean nodded and praised. Yes, since you have comprehended the secrets in the sword's edge stone wall, your talent is naturally excellent, so we decided to send you there. Hearing this, Yi Chubai was also a little moved. Hidden Sword Sect, the holy land of sword cultivators in the world. As a sword cultivator, Yi Chubai naturally wanted to see it. But I am a disciple of the Southern Region branch. The dean waved his hand and said, The Southern Region branch is also part of my Tibetan Taoist Academy, isn't it? Okay, tell me, how much do you know about Zhanzhong? Yi Chubai shook his head. Never understood. Seeing this, the dean told the story of the sword mound. Among them, including the inheritance of the Sword Master, I sent you there in the hope that you can get that inheritance. Of course, after getting the inheritance, you don't need to hand over the inheritance you have comprehended to the academy. Okay, you can go down and leave in 2 days. Wait until Yi Chubai leaves. A figure slowly walked out behind the dean. Dean, the quota was originally given to Guan Zongyan, but now it is replaced by Yi Chubai, will there be any harm? The dean continued to lean over the desk, and said in a flat tone, what's wrong? It's just not convinced. If you are not convinced, then prove that you have this talent. The practice world is like this. If you do what you do, you will be eliminated. What's the bad effect? The figure showed worry, but nothing to worry about. The dean interrupted his words, looked in the direction of Chudao Mountain, and said with emotion, Mu Lao has spoken in person, if you have any objections, you can go to Mu Lao. Hearing this, the man's expression changed. Mu Lao. The strength of the old man is like a mystery. No one has ever seen him shoot. All I know is that the Supreme Elder has issued an order to everyone. Don't provoke Mu Lao. Whatever request Mr. Mu has, it must be fulfilled. Thinking of this, Yingying had no choice but to nod. Okay, then I'll go and talk to Guan Zongyan. The dean nodded and said, go. After thinking for a while, he said, Guan Zongyan is allowed to enter Chudao Mountain and practice for 3 days as compensation. Understood. Chapter 87 War Guan Zongyan. The quota is fixed. The news that Yi Chubai replaced Guan Zongyan and went to the secret realm of the Yinjianzong sword tomb spread throughout the academy. Yi Chubai. That person from the southern region branch. That's right, it's the ruthless man who rushed to 5th place in a short period of time in the land of 100 refinements. However, there is still a gap between him and senior brother Guan, right? You must know that senior brother Guan is now the number 1 in the land of 100 refinements, and now, he has even reached the 47th floor. There are 2 more floors to reach the bottom. On the other hand, Yi Chubai, although the speed of the charge is very fast, it is still only 40 floors, right? In terms of qualifications, Yi Chubai is indeed not as good as senior brother Guan. Jian Chaomian and others also heard this news. When Yi Chubai returned to the residence, the 3 of them were already waiting here. Yi Chubai couldn't help being taken aback when he saw the 3 of them sitting at the stone table. Why are you 3 here? Don't you go to the training ground to practice? Shisheng rolled his eyes, and said, I can't compare to you, you are going to the secret realm of Yinjianzong. Huh, how do you know? Zhonghe laughed and said, this news has already spread throughout the academy. Yi Chubai shrugged and sat down too. Jian Chaomian had an envious expression on his face. Yinjianzong, I also heard from Master that there is a holy place for sword cultivators in the world. One day, I want to visit it too. However, how did you do it? I heard that the quota was reserved by Guan Zongyan. Yi Chubai shook his head and said, I don't know either. Shisheng was on the side, and said with emotion, at the beginning, when you were communicating in the 4 domains, you were the one who was the most underestimated. Now, you have surpassed us and come to the front. Zhonghe felt deeply, nodded and said, I'm afraid, the 3 of us are no longer your opponents. Hearing this, Yi Chubai laughed jokingly and said, it's as if you were my opponents before. Damn. I can't bear it. Let's go 3 together. If you don't teach this kid a lesson, I'm afraid he will go to heaven. It didn't take long. Yi Chubai walked out of the courtyard, intending to go to the land of hundreds of refinements to practice for a while, and to test the power of the sword field in actual combat. In the courtyard, the 3 of Jian Chaomian were in a panic. Obviously, Yi Chubai taught him a lesson. This guy, what a pervert. At the same time, Guan Zongyan issued a challenge announcement. Want to fight Yi Chubai? The place of the decisive battle was set at Yanyan Terrace. Life and death are not decided, the bet is the qualification to go to the hidden sword sect. Obviously, Guan Zongyan is not satisfied with the academy's decision. He wants to prove that he is more qualified than Yi Chubai. And this news also reached the dean. He also has no opinion on this. Yi Chubai heard the news, didn't say anything, turned and went to Yanyan Terrace. Just right, use Guan Zongyan to try the power of this sword domain. At this moment, Yanyan Terrace is already full of students. Jian Chaomian and the others also came here. As for Yanyan Terrace, Guan Zongyan was already waiting here. Senior brother Guan challenged Yi Chubai. It's a bit inappropriate. Senior brother Guan is a strong man in the middle Qianyuan realm after all. It's true that the big is bullying the small. While everyone was discussing, Yi Chubai also came here. Jump up. Everyone looked over. They obviously didn't expect that Yi Chubai would really fight. If Yi Chubai did not challenge, everyone would understand. After all, the realm gap is too large. Guan Zongyan looked at Yi Chubai at this moment, and said lightly, "You have no enmity with me, and naturally there is no distinction between life and death. However, the bet is the qualification to go to the Hidden Sword School, can you take it?" Hearing this, Yi Chubai's expression didn't change much. "I've already stood on Yanyan Terrace, what more can I ask?" Guan Zongyan nodded slightly. "In this case, I will not take advantage of you. I will suppress the realm to the middle stage of Qixi realm, and fight with you." Everyone nodded. If that's the case, that's fair. However, Yi Chubai is still at a disadvantage. After all, senior brother Guan has already seen the scenery of the Qianyuan realm. Whether it is the use of exercises or the perception of artistic conception, I am afraid it is far superior to Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai is still more dangerous than good. Hearing these words, Yi Chubai frowned. The opponent suppressed to the same level as him. How can you try the power of Jiuyou? I'm afraid you don't even need to use sword domain. In Yi Chubai's eyes, there is no threat in the same territory. After all these years, he has fought by leapfrogging. And, undefeated. Seeing Yi Chubai's dissatisfaction, Guan Zongyan was puzzled. What? Are you dissatisfied? Yi Chubai nodded and said, "You don't need to suppress the realm, otherwise you may not be able to survive my few moves." Hearing this, Guan Zongyan's expression turned cold, arrogance. After finishing speaking, he looked at the elder of the law enforcement hall and said, "Let's start." Yi Chubai also nodded to the elder. The battle on Yanyan Terrace has officially begun. As expected, Guan Zongyan directly suppressed the breath to the middle stage of Qixi realm. Holding a sword in his hand, a wave of sword intent rose up. The sword was intended to be behind Guan Zongyan, forming a long sword. Immediately, a whirlwind blew up, accompanied by Guan Zongyan's long sword, and slashed towards Yi Chubai. This is the artistic conception of wind. Obviously, Guan Zongyan blessed the sword intent with the artistic conception of wind, making the sword intent even more powerful. Yi Chubai saw this scene, his eyes were calm. Holding a wooden sword in his hand, he slashed towards Guan Zongyan's wind sword. At first, when Guan Zongyan saw the wooden sword in Yi Chubai's hand, he was even more dissatisfied. Use a wooden sword to fight him. Is this looking down on him? This is also the thought of everyone in the audience. Everyone thinks that Yi Chubai is a little exaggerated. Although Guan Zongyan has suppressed the realm, he is stronger than Yi Chubai in other aspects. Only Jian Chaomian and the others shook their heads slightly. Guan Zongyan probably won't do it. How can Yi Chubai, that monster, be treated with common sense? Suppressing the realm. I'm afraid I will be crushed by Brother Yi. Invincible in the same realm, undefeated in the next step. People who know Yi Chubai all comment like this. In the blink of an eye, the wooden sword landed on the wind swords. The wooden sword was not broken as everyone expected. On the contrary, the wind sword collapsed directly at this moment. Under the wooden sword, there is no way to support it. Seeing this scene, Guan Zongyan was stunned. Everyone was shocked. Yi Chubai held a wooden sword, looked at Guan Zongyan, and said in a low voice, "If that's all it is, then don't suppress your realm." These words sound extremely arrogant. However, in Yi Chubai's expression, it seems that this is a matter of course. Guan Zongyan also looked a little ugly. Obviously, he underestimated Yi Chubai a bit. And the people present also have a preliminary understanding of Yi Chubai's strength. Can directly rush to the 5th place in the land of 100 refinements at a speed of more than 10 days. This is definitely no accident. Chapter 88 In the Sword Field, I am the Master. No one thought that this Yi Chubai from the southern region branch would be so powerful. Guan Zongyan also had embarrassment in his eyes. He originally thought that with his own strength, he should be able to fight Yi Chubai with ease. Even if the realm is suppressed. But who would have known that the opponent held a wooden sword, so he could easily defuse his attack. And looking at Yi Chubai's appearance, it is obvious that he did not use his full strength. Thinking of this, Guan Zongyan gave a deep drink, His feet were lifted by the wind, and he stepped slightly. In the blink of an eye, he came to Yi Chubai. Fast as the wind. At the same time, the long sword in his hand was suddenly cut out. The long sword turned into afterimages one after another in the space. Slashed towards Yi Chubai. Facing the sword shadows all over the sky, Yi Chubai did not react in a panic, and there was no wave in his expression. The wooden sword in his hand didn't swing out, he just took a step forward. That sword intent soared into the sky. There were bursts of sword chant. And that soaring sword intent seemed to turn into a defensive barrier. The sword shadows all over the sky chopped on it, without any damage. On the contrary, Guan Zongyan was shocked by the barrier of sword intent and retreated violently. Those who have mastered sword intent are great sword masters. Sword intent great accomplishment. This Yi Chubai is actually a great swordsman. I heard this news before and thought it was fake. But such a young great swordsman, who would believe it? Even a swordsman who spends his whole life can't reach the level of a great swordsman. But what about Yi Chubai? In the mid-stage of Talent C realm, this step has already been reached. His kendo talent is probably unmatched in the academy. Now, everyone can understand why the academy cancelled Guan Zongyan's quota. Instead, he gave the qualification to Yi Chubai. After all, with Yi Chubai's talent in swordsmanship, it is indeed more suitable to go to Yinjianzong. Guan Zongyan obviously thought of this, and his face darkened. Yi Chubai held the wooden sword in one hand, and the sword's intent crossed the sky. Looking at Guan Zongyan, he said lightly, "If you suppress the realm again, I'm afraid there will be no chance." What Yi Chubai said is the truth. With great sword intent, Yi Chubai's strength is approaching the Qianyuan realm. Guan Zongyan had a sullen face, and at the moment, he didn't care about face either. If you lose, I'm afraid it will be even more embarrassing. The realm is no longer suppressed. The aura of the mid-Qianyuan realm exploded completely. Now, Guan Zongyan no longer holds back. Your talent is indeed stronger than mine. Guan Zongyan's momentum kept pressing Yi Chubai. His eyes were full of indifference, and he said, "You will have a chance to surpass me in the future, but not now." The breath produces a roaring sound in the space. At this time, one whirlwind after another revolved around Guan Zongyan. And amidst the whirlwinds, there were sharp daggers. The daggers are all transformed by sword intent. This is the move that Guan Zongyan is good at. The perfect fusion of the meaning of wind and the meaning of sword. You must know that the integration of Taoism and will is very difficult. Even the elders of the law enforcement hall above couldn't help but sigh with emotion when they saw this scene. Guan Zongyan lived up to the name of the Tianzhao of the General Academy of Tibetan Taoism Academy. Unfortunately, Yi Chubai is even more evil than him. Seeing this scene, Yi Chubai didn't see any panic in his eyes. The sword intent is like turning into a river, soaring into the sky. Immediately, there were scattered falls, and those sword intents surrounded the entire Yanyan terrace. Guan Zongyan looked at this scene, and said indifferently, "If you disperse the sword intent, its power will also be weakened, so what's the point of your move?" Yi Chubai ignored it. Slowly, the Yanyan terrace was covered by sword intent. Everyone finally discovered the anomaly. At this moment, on Yanyan terrace, it seems that every place is full of sword intent. The elder of the law enforcement hall changed his face first. Immediately afterwards, Guan Zongyan on the stage. At this moment, he felt that his whole body was filled with this sharp sword intent. It seems that all of this is under Yi Chubai's control. Sword domain. The inheritance that Yi Chubai comprehended on Zhanfeng stone wall. Posting. Guan Zongyan didn't believe that Yi Chubai, who was only in the Sea of Qi, could stir up such a storm. Those whirlwinds of sword intent swept towards Yi Chubai following Guan Zongyan's deep drink. Yi Chubai looked at this scene, his complexion unchanged, and he turned his palms. The sword field seemed to be activated, and countless sword intents were like spider webs, enveloping the whirlwind of sword intents one after another. At the same time, the sword intents everywhere were also cutting towards Guan Zongyan at this moment. In the sword domain, Yi Chubai is the absolute master. Sword intent is everywhere. As long as Yi Chubai moves his mind, he can command the sword intent attack in the sword domain at will. And those whirlwinds of sword intents were directly annihilated by those sword intents at this moment. Even annexation. Guan Zongyan looked at this scene, and before he had time to think about it, his sword intent exploded. Want to use this to fight against Yi Chubai's sword domain. However, when the sword intent erupted, Guan Zongyan felt that his sword intent seemed to be suppressed. How is this going? Only Yi Chubai understood. In this sword field, all sword intents or kendo skills of sword repairers will be suppressed. Only when the strength of the opponent far exceeds him, can he break it with strength. It can be said that this sword domain is a domain for sword repairers. At this time, Yi Chubai waved his palm again. The monstrous sword intent gathered into a long river of sword intent, sweeping towards Guan Zongyan. Facing endless sword intent, Guan Zongyan roared angrily, and his strength in the middle stage of the Qianyuan realm was undoubtedly revealed. Blast out with a punch. Like the roar of the wind. Boom. On Yanyan Terrace, a polarized trend suddenly formed. On one side is the strong wind, and on the other side is the river of sword intent. Everyone looked at this scene with horror on their faces. Yi Chubai was able to fight senior brother Guan to this extent. No, feel it carefully, brother Guan's aura is obviously suppressed. The wind howled. Gradually, it was continuously crushed by the river of sword intent. Guan Zongyan's face turned pale. In this blow, he has used all his strength. But now, Yi Chubai still can't be defeated, instead he is suppressed. This is a great blow to him. I surrender. As soon as the voice fell, the gust of wind disappeared. Yi Chubai waved his hand, and the sword field also disappeared. On the Yanyan Terrace, Yi Chubai has experienced 2 battles in total. In the first round, life and death will be decided, and the emperor will be killed in battle. In the second round, bet on the spot and defeat Guan Zongyan. These 2 battles also made Yi Chubai's reputation spread throughout the entire Tibetan Taoist Academy. This disciple from the southern region branch crushed the Qianyuan realm powerhouse with Qixi realm. Yi Chubai gave Guan Zongyan a dull look, and jumped down. Left here. Walking towards the land of 100 refinements. In the battle with Guan Zongyan, Yi Chubai just wanted to test the power of Jiuyou. Everyone looked at Yi Chubai's back. Eyes showing reverence. On the other side, the dean couldn't help laughing when he got the news. When Yi Chubai goes to the Yinjianzong, I guess there will be a surprise there. My Tibetan Tao Academy has produced such a swordsman. Chapter 89 The Sword of Damocles. Sunset Dynasty. The news about Yi Chubai has been known to Huang Tianming. Will the land of 100 refinements rank first and defeat Guan Zongyan in the middle of the Qianyuan realm? Another step up crush. Hearing this news, Huang Tianming's face became even more gloomy. Looking at Zhang Chan who was in a daze in the small courtyard. At this moment, his heart is already full of regret. Is it really worth offending a monster for the sake of a woman? No. Huang Tianming gritted his teeth. How could Yi Chubai at that time have such a talent? Now it's just growing up. It just didn't kill him in the cradle. After speaking, Huang Tianming turned and left. Yi Chubai is going to Yinjianzong. Then on the way to Yinjianzong, kill him with all his strength. Outside of this plain, there is an endless starry sky. And the place where the 2 connect is a dilapidated star road. Above the star road, there are 5 figures, quietly looking at the plain below the star road. The formation, can we break it? If the real body comes, maybe it can. The 5 of them couldn't help trembling when they thought of the previous formation. That is the trembling from the soul. I suggest leaving it alone. After all, he didn't say he wants to be our enemy. Who can know his intentions? That kind of strength, I am afraid that he is not from this wild place. Could it be that his purpose is the same as ours? No matter what, let's wait and see for a while. After thinking about it, the time is almost up. At that time, the plan will be implemented. Understood. As soon as the voice fell, the 5 people disappeared in place. As if it had never appeared before. Leave the collapsed star road empty. Time passed slowly. In the boundless starry sky. There is a thing burning with black flames coming towards this side quickly. In the starry sky, everything that was collided was corroded by the black fire and burned to death. And at this moment, this unknown black fire passed directly through the collapsed star road, passed through the barrier, and fell into the mainland. This movement is not too big. Did not destroy anything on the mainland. The unknown black fire fell into the central territory. The black flame dissipated. is a very ordinary-looking stone. And an arm pierced through the stone. Southern region. Thatched cottage. Lu Changsheng had just finished watering the flowers and plants when the long-lost voice finally sounded. Open black lens bracket. The host triggers the task. Please go to the central domain to accept disciples. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Name. Unknown. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Talent. SSS level. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Qualification. Body of heavenly demon, reincarnation of demon king, appearance of Emperor Cheng. Close black lens bracket. The devil. Lu Changsheng was stunned for a moment, and said, "Why is this the talent to become an emperor? Why do you feel that these disciples are better than me? Then what kind of physique am I? Do I have a physique that sounds great? System? No." Hearing this cold voice, Lu Changsheng was speechless. The waste is actually me. Shaking his head and sighing, he said, "That's all. As long as the apprentice is good, anyway, I won't be like that kid Yi Chubai, causing trouble everywhere." After speaking, he disappeared in place. Go to Middlelands. 2 days have passed. During these 2 days, Yi Chubai successfully broke Guan Zongyan's record in the land of 100 refinements. Came to the 49th floor. On the stele, Guan Zongyan was also replaced by Yi Chubai. In this scene, everyone saw it and took it for granted. After all, Yi Chubai crushed Guan Zongyan. Today, Yi Chubai is also about to set off for Yinjianzong. Accompanying him was an inner elder whose strength was in the middle stage of the Qianyuan realm. The other person is Liang Feng. Obviously, Liang Feng also heard about Yi Chubai's record, and said to him, "When we arrive at Yinjianzong, you and I can compete." Yi Chubai nodded in agreement. The inner elder beside him smiled and said, "Okay, let's go." Immediately, the elder made a move. A small ship appeared in front of everyone. The three of them got on board and galloped in the direction of Yinjianzong. On the way, Yi Chubai sat cross-legged. On the road of practice, talent alone is useless. If you want to step up to a higher level, hard work is also indispensable. Of course, without talent is absolutely impossible. The elder looked at this scene and couldn't help but nodded. Such a talent, still not arrogant. This kind of Changsheng is the top grade. When passing the Teibai Mountains, the elder suddenly changed his expression and looked forward. Yi Chubai and Liang Feng also interrupted their practice one after another and opened their eyes. In front of the ship, 5 people stood. Behind the 5 people was a dark crowd. The group of people were all riding blood-colored horses, holding spears, and wearing battle armor. Yi Chubai narrowed his eyes slightly. He was all too familiar with this army. Is the Shira Iron Cavalry of the Sunset Dynasty. Behind the Shira Cavalry, Huang Tianming looked gloomy, looking at Yi Chubai with murderous intent in his eyes. Liang Feng looked at Yi Chubai and said, "For you." Yi Chubai nodded slightly. The elder of the inner dean shouted in a low voice, "Do you dare to intercept the ship of the Tibetan Taoist Academy?" In the eyes of Tibetan Taoist Academy, although the Sunset Dynasty is strong, it is still not as good as them. In the past, the Sunset Dynasty didn't have the guts. Huang Tianming bowed to the old dean of the inner court, and said in a serious tone, "Today is my personal grievance between the Sunset Dynasty and Yi Chubai. I hope your court will not intervene." The elder of the inner dean also looked stern, and said, "Yi Chubai is a student of my Tibetan Taoist Academy. If you touch him, you are naturally attacking our Tibetan Taoist Academy. After all, Yi Chubai's talent is so enchanting. The elders of the inner dean don't have to think about it at all, they must try their best to protect Yi Chubai. What's more, the strength of the Sunset Dynasty is far from reaching their Tibetan Taoist Academy." Huang Tianming shook his head and said, "If that's the case, then we can only offend. He came here just to take Yi Chubai's head. If Yi Chubai does not die, he will become a hidden danger to the Sunset Dynasty in the future. Today, Yi Chubai is like the sword of Damocles hanging over the head of the Sunset Dynasty. The time has come. This sword of Damocles will destroy the Sunset Dynasty." Huang Tianming didn't want to see this scene. That's why, regardless of the influence of the Tibetan Taoist Academy, he wanted to kill Yi Chubai forcibly. Chapter 90 Receive the Reward, Savage Eucharist. Go back in time. Medium domain. Teibai Mountains. Deep in the mountains, there is a place burned by black fire. Here, the surrounding trees were all burned by the black fire. And in the middle of that piece of charred ground, there is a huge black boulder. Suddenly, a white-robed man came to the boulder, touched his chin and said, "Huh. This is where the system locates, but why is it just a stone?" The person who came was Lu Changsheng. Just as Lu Changsheng finished speaking, among the boulders, there is an arm breaking out of the boulder. The black stone also had one crack after another. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng was startled. This can't be a monkey. Going forward, feeling the breath of life in it, it is extremely vigorous. Even, Lu Changsheng could vaguely feel that it was in the black stone. There is a sound of a heart beating. Boom, boom, boom. As the cracks in the black stone widened, the sound of the beating heart grew louder. As the sound of the beating heart became louder, the monsters in the Tabai Mountains seemed to be affected. There were bursts of roars. For a while, the roars in the entire Tabai Mountains continued. Even, the low-strength monster seemed unable to bear the sound of the beating heart, and exploded to death. When Lu Changsheng saw this, he couldn't help being slightly surprised. My apprentice seems to be unusual. At this time, the cracks in the black stone are getting bigger and bigger. The other hand sticks out from it too. Immediately afterwards, streams of energy and blood soared into the sky. Heisha began to tremble violently. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng waved his hand, and a barrier spread like a fishing net, sealing the movement here. It is absolutely impossible for outsiders to probe into it. Such a powerful force of qi and blood. It can even directly affect the surrounding monsters. Lu Changsheng was looking forward to what kind of person this apprentice would be. One stick of incense time passed. The power of qi and blood in the enchantment is getting stronger and stronger. The sound of the beating heart is like drums beating, and the sound of thunder is rolling. There are more and more cracks in the black stone, and eventually, they spread all over the entire black stone. In Lu Changsheng's expectant eyes, the black stone is broken. Looking closely, it is a naked man. Contrary to what Lu Changsheng thought, the man's figure looked a little thin. The appearance is ordinary, a little simple and honest. If you put aside the physical power of qi and blood around your body, that doesn't look like anything special. What about the body of the demon? This thin figure, you tell me the body of a demon. Your omen is so thin. I read very little. Don't lie to me. But, fortunately, it is a person. If a monkey really comes, then he probably won't be at peace. At this moment, the man opened his eyes, and at first sight, he saw Lu Changsheng. Here it is. Hearing these words, Lu Changsheng was taken aback. And who are you? Why am I here? Good guy. Is this amnesia? Lu Changsheng asked tentatively, you don't know how you got here. Hearing this, the man shook his head. Then what's your name? Before, when the system released the task of recruiting apprentices, it would tell the person's name. As a result, an unknown name came directly this time. The man's eyes were blank, he scratched his head, and said, the name. I don't seem to remember it either. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng didn't ask any more questions. Stretched out his hand and said with a smile, then do you want to worship me as your teacher? Apprentice teacher. The man looked at Lu Changsheng and was slightly taken aback. Immediately nodded, said, okay. After finishing speaking, the man knelt on the ground subconsciously, and said, greetings, master. Lu Changsheng also nodded in satisfaction. You don't have a name, and it's hard for me to call you. Since you jumped out of this black stone, I will call you Sun Wu. No, I'll call you Xiāo He. Hearing this, the man nodded, scratched his head, with a simple and honest smile on his face, and said, I will call whatever master says. At this time, there was also the sound of mission completion in my mind. Open black lens bracket. Congratulations to the host for completing the task of accepting apprentices, and now issuing rewards for accepting apprentices. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. 9 Heavens Demon Halberd, Eternal Demon Body. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket obtained by the host, Savage Eucharist. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Whether to receive. Close black lens bracket. Lu Changsheng took a look. 9 Heavens Demon Halberd is a weapon that can be continuously upgraded. Now it is the pinnacle of the heavenly rank. The Eternal Demon Physique is a body-refining magic art. As for the barbaric Eucharist that I obtained, It is the physique that can be called invincible in the 10,000-dimensional universe. Seems pretty awesome. Receive. The voice fell. An earth-shattering change occurred in Lu Changsheng's body instantly. Qi and blood in the meridians are like monstrous waves. Roar and roar. Xiaohe looked at Lu Changsheng at this moment with a startled expression. Even the power of qi and blood around him was instantly suppressed by Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng glanced at his fist with a puzzled look on his face. You don't seem to feel anything. But it's not because Lu Changsheng didn't feel it. It's just that Lu Changsheng's physique has reached its peak. Although it is now strengthened again. It doesn't feel too much. Whatever. Lu Changsheng shook his head, took out the Nine Heavens Demon Halberd, handed it to Xiaohe, and said, "You can use this thing as a weapon in the future." Xiaohe did not refuse, took it with both hands, and said with a simple smile, "Thank you, master." Lu Changsheng nodded, and then pointed at Xiaohe's eyebrows. Taught Xiaohe the cultivation method of the eternal demon physique. Open black lens bracket trigger the development task, help Xiaohe unseal the body of the demon, and retrieve Xiaohe's memory fragments close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket during the period, the seal cannot be forcibly broken close black lens bracket. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng was a little speechless. It's okay to lift the seal. According to the routine, as long as Xiaohe's own strength reaches a certain level, he can break through naturally. As for retrieving memory fragments, how does he know? Thinking of this, Lu Changsheng could only helplessly shake his head. Can only take one step at a time. Okay, let's go back. Xiaohe nodded, and followed behind Lu Changsheng. The time has come to the present. Above the Teibai Mountains. Yi Chubai looked at the **** army in front of him. Among the 5 people in front, there are 2 old acquaintances. One is Fan Jinggrao, who ranks 27th in the martial arts list. The other person is Eunuch Ming, who is ranked 7th. There are 3 other people, don't need to think too much, they must be on the martial arts list. Huang Tianming looked at Yi Chubai with killing intent on his face, and sneered, "Yi Chubai, I admit, your talent scares me. So, I specially arranged such a big show for you. Except for Senior Fan and Eunuch Ming, the other 3 are enshrined in my palace. 2 of them are ranked 24th and 30th in the martial arts list. 5 strong men in the martial arts list, plus Shira cavalry, should be enough to kill you." Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 91 Lu Changsheng has arrived. At the top of the Teibai Mountains, killing intent is everywhere. Those killing intents seem to have turned into substance, sticking to the air like a liquid. The killing intent emanating from the Shira iron cavalry is like a sea of blood. As a result, the top of the Teibai Mountains turned into a blood-colored sky. It should be enough to kill you, right? Heard Huang Tianming's murderous words. Yi Chubai's face didn't change, and there was no surprise. Both sides are deadly enemies. Now that his strength is getting stronger and stronger, Huang Tianming is naturally anxious to eradicate himself. I just didn't expect that the other party would do something here. Isn't he afraid of the influence of Tibetan Taoist Academy? Yi Chubai shook his head slightly, "It seems that you have been carried away." Hearing this, Huang Tianming laughed back angrily, "So what? As long as I kill you, what if I pay a price for the Sunset Dynasty? Once Yi Chubai's wings are full, I'm afraid he won't be able to handle it later." At that time, the Sunset Dynasty was just dying slowly. And Huang Yidong did not make a move for a long time, which also made Huang Tianming lose his patience. Panic. Yi Chubai shrugged, and took out the dark demon. There is no second word. Liang Feng asked aside, "Do you want to help?" Yi Chubai looked at him, smiled lightly and said, "Who can you fight with?" Liang Feng didn't even think about it, and said, "Except for the 7th ranked one, I can fight the other 4. If it's just blocking, I can block too." Yi Chubai nodded and said, "I'll take care of it, Mr. Ming." The current Yi Chubai can crush people in the middle stage of the Qianyuan realm. Although Guan Zhongyan's strength is not as good as those on the martial arts list. But the difference is definitely not big. Eunuch Ming is ranked 7th in the martial arts list, and his strength has reached the late Qianyuan stage. Yi Chubai wants to have a try, where is his current limit? Liang Feng raised his eyebrows, and then said, "You can do it. Then you come." Yi Chubai asked back. Liang Feng. Forget it, I'm not sure. Then the other two will be handed over to the elders. On the other hand, the inner dean wanted to persuade them not to do anything yet, but to return to the college and wait for the college's support. However, Yi Chubai and Liang Feng have already arranged who will fight whom. What else could he say? Have to. Even after thinking about it, I can't persuade him anymore. It is better to send a support signal and try to delay the time. Heard what they said. Eunuch Ming let out a sinister and shrill laugh. You, a petty person in the sea, dare to challenge our family. I'm afraid you underestimate our family. Yi Chubai pointed forward with the dark demon sword, pointing at Eunuch Ming, and said, you'll know if you try it. After finishing speaking, he rushed towards Eunuch Ming. Seeing this, Liang Feng shrugged, drew out his long sword, and stepped towards the other two people in the martial arts list. The inner dean elder sighed inwardly. To be honest, although his strength is not much different from those in the martial arts list. But facing two strong men in the martial arts list, the elder is still under a lot of pressure. But now, there is no hesitation. So bit the bullet and followed. Eunuch Ming has now been destroyed by Hongying. Now I found a refiner to recast a handle. Although it can be used, it is definitely not as strong as before. Yi Chubai, holding the dark demon sword, has rushed to Eunuch Ming. Without the slightest hesitation, the sword field unfolded directly. A series of sword-intense soared into the sky. Surround around Eunuch Ming. Seeing this, Eunuch Ming looked sternly. Feeling this sword field, there was a sense of threat to him. Yi Chubai's strength is stronger than before. In just such a short period of time, it has reached this level. This sun must not stay. Eunuch Ming is not going to keep his hand, and making a move is the ultimate move. The 3,000 white silks on the whisk were scattered and fluttering in front of Yi Chubai. Immediately, the white silks turned into refined iron. Form a cold iron spear. The gas engine locks Yi Chubai. Lacing away. Looking at the gun shadows all over the sky, Yi Chubai had no room to dodge. Waved his hand, the sword intent in the sword domain is like an army, waiting for Yi Chubai to send. Turned into a long river of sword intent, forming rolling waves, sweeping up. Boom. 3,000 whisks and white silk spears, piercing through this long river of sword intent. For a while, it was impossible to tell the winner. Eunuch Ming snorted coldly when he saw this. Flicked the whisk in his hand. The coercion of the 3,000 cold iron spears has once again strengthened. This moment, the long river of sword intent couldn't bear it, it was penetrated directly. Shoot towards Yi Chubai. After all, the realm gap between the two sides is too big. At the late stage of the Qianyuan realm, Yi Chubai was at the middle stage of the Qihai realm. The middle span is like a horizontal ditch. Facing the 3,000 cold iron spears, Yi Chubai didn't panic, and let out a deep drink. The dark magic sword in his hand suddenly cut out. The seventh sword of the heavenly demon 9 swords. All the sword intents in the sword domain are also gathering at this moment. It actually formed a huge dark magic sword. Following Yi Chubai's slash, the huge dark magic sword in midair also slashed out. With the blessing of the heavenly demon 9 swords, the attack power of the sword domain is even stronger. Suddenly, the storm suddenly arose. The huge magic sword met the 3,000 cold iron spears. At this moment, the huge dark demon sword shattered. The 3,000 cold iron spears also stopped attacking at this moment. Obviously blocked by this sword. However, Yi Chubai also let out a muffled snort, blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth. Eunuch Ming's face is ugly. He didn't expect that his blow would be blocked by a mere ants in the Qixi realm. If the opponent enters the Qianyuan realm, I'm afraid the outcome is hard to say. Think here. Eunuch Ming didn't stop, and threw out the whisk again. 3,000 white silks directly enveloped Yi Chubai. Like a spider web, layer upon layer. Want to strangle him. And at this moment, Huang Tianming also waved his hands and ordered, Asura Iron Cavalry, all out, kill Yi Chubai. One order. All the spears in the hands of the Shura cavalry stabbed out together. A spear condensed in midair. Huge. Suddenly stabbed at Yi Chubai. Not far away, Liang Feng and the elders of the inner court watched this scene. His complexion changed. Such a powerful attack. Even if they face it, they will be killed instantly. Yi Chubai is now in the sea, what can he use to stop him? Faced with these two attacks, Yi Chubai's face condensed slightly. The opponent is not a sword cultivator, and the sword domain cannot suppress it. Now, he can only draw Qingyun Sword. In order to resolve this crisis. Think here. A long sword with a sheath appeared in Yi Chubai's hand. The scabbard is simple and simple. Surrounded by wisps of kendo rules. Want to pull it out. But at this moment, a man in white robe appeared in front of Yi Chubai. I saw the man pop out with one finger. Immediately. The white silk surrounding her body was instantly annihilated. And the giant blood-colored spear that pierced it was also shattered. Turned into dots and scattered in the space. I really convinced you. Why are people trying to kill you everywhere? Can't you be a teacher and be more peaceful? Chapter 92. Lu Changsheng accepted Xiao He as his disciple. Was about to take him back to the thatched cottage. However, at this moment, I felt an aura erupting above the Tabai mountains. Has endless killing intent. Sword intent. Which big boss fights each other again? Lu Changsheng prepared to leave without even thinking about it. He didn't intend to interfere. However, when he just passed under the battlefield, one of the breaths made Lu Changsheng feel very familiar. Take a look subconsciously. Good guy. Isn't this Yi Chubai that brat? Xiao He asked from the side. Master, what happened? Why are you covering your face? Lu Changsheng said helplessly. Your elder brother is causing trouble again. Speaking of this, Lu Changsheng observed it. Just wait here and solve it for the teacher. After finishing speaking, he disappeared in place and ran towards the center of the battlefield. So, there is the present scene. Yi Chubai said pleasantly, Master. Why are you here? Master. Liang Feng and the elders of the inner court were taken aback. Is this person Yi Chubai's master? On the other side, the faces of Huang Tianming and others sank. Eunuch Ming was even more surprised. Just a flick of a finger resolved his strongest blow. What kind of strength is this? Lu Changsheng ignored the others, looked at Yi Chubai, and said with a dark face, I'm here to accept disciples. Apprentice. Yi Chubai said, I have a younger brother and younger sister again. Lu Changsheng nodded, then looked at Eunuch Ming and the others, and said casually, a member of the Sunset Dynasty again. Yi Chubai nodded. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng's face also sank. The other party wanted his apprentice's life time and time again, it must be fake not to be angry. At that time, when the opponent hit the door, Lu Changsheng wanted to make a move. But Yi Chubai said, he will come by himself. He used the Sunset Dynasty as his whetstone. Only by destroying it with your own hands, can you get rid of the knot in your heart. So Lu Changsheng didn't make a move, but ran over to destroy the shadow-killing pavilion. And now, the opponent scored twice. Lu Changsheng snorted coldly, and his figure disappeared in place. Afterwards, Lu Changsheng seemed to have torn apart the space directly, and bursts of sonic booms came from his physical body in the air. Where Lu Changsheng passed by, the space seems to be unable to bear it, and it keeps breaking apart. In just a moment, he came to Eunuch Ming. Eunuch Ming's face changed, but he didn't have time to react. Seeing that Lu Changsheng's finger lightly tapped on the center of Eunuch Ming's eyebrows. Although this kid Yi Chubai often causes trouble outside, it doesn't mean that my apprentice can be bullied by you. The voice entered Eunuch Ming's ears. It's like the king of Hades transmitting the voice. Hades let you die in the third watch, who would dare to keep you in the third watch? Speak. Under the terrified eyes of Eunuch Ming, Lu Changsheng snapped his fingers slightly. In an instant, Eunuch Ming's body burst open. It turned into blood mist in the air. Huang Tianming and others looked at this scene with horror on their faces. They never expected that Yi Chubai's master would be so powerful. Eunuch Ming is also ranked 7th on the 4 regions martial arts ranking. The state has reached the late Qianyuan state. However, he was still flicked out by the man in front of him. So how far has his realm reached? At this moment, Liang Feng also came to Yi Chubai's side, and asked in surprise, your master is so strong. Yi Chubai smiled and nodded. In his heart, Lu Changsheng is omnipotent. Although it doesn't look normal on weekdays. But Lu Changsheng's strength seems to have no bottom line, and he cannot be seen through. Lu Changsheng looked at Huang Tianming in front of him again. Huang Tianming's body trembled, and he shouted in horror, Sura cavalry, stop him. The voice fell. Sura cavalry all let out a deep shout. Taking a step forward, a ***** spear condensed again and pierced towards Lu Changsheng. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng's face remained unchanged. One foot slightly stepped on the void. Immediately, the huge ***** spear dissipated in midair. Immediately, Lu Changsheng disappeared. When it reappeared, it was on top of Shira's cavalry. Make a fist with your right hand, and punch it out. Seems bland. However, after the fist blasted out, the space where the Shira cavalry was located was instantly squeezed. Puff puff. Where the space is squeezed, all the cavalry are blown into blood mist. One finger, destroys Mingonggong. One punch, destroy the Shira cavalry. With just 2 shots, Huang Tianming's combat power was directly wiped out. As for those dynasties enshrined, seeing that the situation is not right, I have already left this place. They are just offerings after all. Encountered a critical moment of life and death. The life of the prince of a country. What to do with them? At this moment, Lu Changsheng turned his attention to Huang Tianming. Huang Tianming was startled, cupped his hands and said, "Senior." Lu Changsheng ignored it, turned and left. Not killing him, just because this son is Yi Chubai's heart not. It only makes sense if he does it himself. Then he looked at Yi Chubai and said, "Here, take care of your own affairs." Yi Chubai nodded, took out the dark demon sword, and walked towards Huang Tianming. He would not have the idea of letting him go and forcing him to watch the Sunset Dynasty be destroyed. Is this necessary? The two had already had a grudge. Seized the opportunity, and naturally wanted to kill the opponent. Can't leave future troubles. Thinking of this, Yi Chubai cut out the dark magic sword. A black slash pierced the space and shot towards Huang Tianming. That black slash is getting closer. Because of the influence of the black devil energy, Huang Tianming's mind kept trembling. With frightened eyes, he quickly took out a jade pendant from the ring. Then crush it. Instantly, a ray of light enveloped Huang Tianming. In an instant, it disappeared in place. Yi Chubai's black slash also landed in the empty space. The inner elder on the side said with complicated eyes, "I didn't expect the Sunset Dynasty to have a teleportation jade pendant." Yi Chubai looked over. The elder explained, "This is something that can only be refined by an ancient craftsman. It can be crushed and sent out. However, it has been lost now. The teleportation jade pendant in Huang Tianming's hands is probably obtained from some ancient ruins." Yi Chubai suddenly realized. Lu Changsheng didn't care so much. He looked at Yi Chubai and said, "Do you want to go back?" Hearing this, Yi Chubai shook his head and said, "I still have to go to Yinjianzong." Lu Changsheng nodded and said, "Okay, then I will take your junior brother and leave first." After speaking, before Yi Chubai could speak, he disappeared in place. Yi Chubai smiled wryly upon seeing this. He still wanted to see his 4th junior brother. Why did he leave? Have to. I can only go back and see you again. And after Lu Changsheng left, support of Zodo Academy arrived, too. The elders of Law Enforcement Church came in person. Seeing an empty space in front of my eyes. There was only a little blood mist remaining in midair, and he couldn't help but feel a little dazed. What about people? The elder of the inner dean smiled wryly when he heard the words, and said, "It was all solved by Yi Chubai's master." Chapter 93 Reliance of the Sunset Dynasty. When the Tibetan Taoist Academy received a signal of support from the inner elders, the rescue was organized immediately. Led by the elders of the Law Enforcement Hall, they went to support Yi Chubai. In this matter, the dean also knows. At that time, he didn't say anything, but went directly to the Sunset Dynasty. At this moment, in the setting Sun Dynasty, Huang Yidong looked solemnly, looked at the man in front of him, and said, "What wind brought Dean Yan here?" Dean Yan had a faint smile on his face, and said, "Your boys have brought people to the central region, and they want to surround and kill my academy disciples. I can only come and sit." Hearing this, Huang Yidong's expression turned serious. In fact, he knew that Huang Tianming took all the troops to the central region. Among them, Huang Yidong did not stop him. If it is blocked, can Huang Tianming take away eunuch Ming and Shira cavalry? And enshrined in many dynasties. This is of course impossible. This is also the last chance for Huang Tianming. The enmity between the juniors, let them handle it themselves. Huang Yidong smiled lightly and said, Dean Yan, it's fine for the two of us to watch. Do it yourself. Dean Yan had a faint smile on his face, but his eyes were cold. There are 5 people on the Wu list, and one of them is ranked 7th. All Shira cavalry are dispatched. You said, handle it yourself. Hearing this, Huang Yi pretended to be surprised, as if he didn't know about it, and said, oh. Is there such a thing? Tianming never told me about it. Dean Yan shook his head, he knew that Huang Yidong was playing dumb. Forget it, if something happens to Yi Chubai, then. Speaking of this, Dean Yan's smile completely disappeared. Instead, his face was cold and indifferent. A breath burst out. Move the tables and chairs in the hall, even the dragon chair. Shake it into powder. If Yi Chubai dies, then there is no need for the Sunset Dynasty to exist. Huang Yidong's complexion didn't change much. Dean Yan's strength is much higher than him. Is the 3rd existence in the martial arts list. Although he is not much different from Dean Yan in ranking. But the top 3 in the martial arts list, the strength has undergone a qualitative change. Because, Dean Yan's strength has already broken through the Qianyuan realm and reached the false god realm. In the false god realm, the soul has undergone a qualitative change. It is also known as reaching the realm of the soul. However, it is only a half-step fascination. Huang Yidong said with a smile, Dean Yan, are you so sure you can destroy my Sunset Dynasty? Oh. Dean Yan smiled and said, why don't you try? The atmosphere instantly became tense. The air seemed to condense. Stop the flow. However, even so, Dean Yan felt dark in his heart. Huang Yidong is not an impulsive person. On the contrary, he is a very ambitious king. And an ambitious man is useless if he is only fearless. But the emperor's unification is not the case. On the contrary, he is a very man of the city. Saying such things is naturally not groundless. It must be certain. But, what is the support of the emperor's unification? Can it compete with Tibetan Taoist Academy? Dean Yan said, it seems that your Sunset Dynasty hides quite deeply. Huang Yidong laughed and said, hidden. Not at all. Old fox. Dean Yan snorted coldly. No more words. Huang Yidong was also silent when he saw this, with a smile on his face. They are all waiting for the results. And this time, Huang Yidong obviously had a confident smile on his face. If that kind of lineup can't kill Yi Chubai, then it can only be said that the opponent's luck is too good. A long while. The sun is going to set. The afterglow shines in the royal city of the Sunset Dynasty. The entire palace is illuminated, as if it is heading for decline. At this time, a soldier hurried in. Report. Huang Yidong looked over, seeing the anxious faces of the soldiers, his eyes couldn't help but sink. Explain. The soldiers didn't dare to raise their heads, they clasped their fists and raised their hands above their heads, panting, and said in panic, the Shira Iron Cavalry led by His Royal Highness. Huang Yidong frowned, with some bad premonition in his heart. Dean Yan also took a sip of tea slowly, without looking up. Doesn't seem to be in a hurry. Say it. What's going on? Hearing Huang Yidong's urging question, the soldiers didn't dare to hesitate any longer, lowered their heads even lower, and said, Sura cavalry, all killed in battle. All killed. Hearing the news, Huang Yidong's eyes turned cold, and he burst into anger. You know, Shira cavalry is the ace army of his Sunset Dynasty. Countless battles. Made great contributions to the dynasty. Now, it's all gone. What about Ming Gonggong and the offering? The soldiers felt the anger of Huang Yidong and cried out in their hearts. Under the oppression of the endless coercion, they trembled all over. The 5 priests, all escaped. Eunuch Ming, it is, fallen. Hearing this, Huang Yidong trembled. Eunuch Ming is the top strength of his Sunset Dynasty. Powerful. If it is said that the death of the Shira Iron Cavalry caused a huge loss to the Sunset Dynasty. Now, the fall of Eunuch Ming will definitely hurt the Sunset Dynasty. The escape of the enshrinement made the current Sunset Dynasty even worse. And heard these words. Dean Yan also smiled and heaved a sigh of relief. Put down the teacup, stood up and said with a smile, Okay, now that you have learned about the situation, then don't bother the Lord of the Sunset to deal with your country's affairs. However, the Lord should not be too angry. After all, in our current state, it would be a disaster if our state of mind is broken. After finishing speaking, leave a loud laugh. Disappeared in place. Huang Yidong's face was ugly, he took a deep breath, and his face returned to calm. At his level, the skill of nourishing qi is naturally not bad. Not to mention being the lord of a country. I saw Huang Yidong calmly said, what about the eldest prince? The soldiers shook their heads. The eldest prince has not fallen, but he is also missing. Huang Yidong nodded and waved his hand. Okay, you can go down. Here. The soldier stood up, bowed his head, raised his hands above his head, and retreated like this. After going out, I was relieved, the inner armor was already soaked in sweat. In the main hall, Huang Yidong looked at the afterglow of the setting sun. My heart is heavy. That lineup did not kill Yi Chubai. Instead, it has gained so much national power. This sun is really lucky. However, there is no turning back when the bow is opened. Since Yi Chubai has been thoroughly offended, he must be killed. Immediately, **** came and said calmly, resign Huang Tianming as the lord of the country, and announce it to the world as a punishment. At the same time, issue a reward order to the 4 regions to take Yi Chubai's life, and you can go to the treasury to pick up 3 items. After saying that, the eunuch's mind was shocked. Let's not talk about Huang Tianming. The treasury can take 3 pieces at will. This is bleeding. Aren't you going to do it soon? The emperor swept towards the eunuch. The **** trembled immediately. Here. Chapter 94. This silly boy is not simple. Let's talk about the dean. Has returned to the Tibetan Taoist Academy. Now, the elder of the Law Enforcement Hall has returned. Came to Zongfeng Hall to report the situation. Dean Yan smiled and said, good job. However, how did you kill number 7 in the Wubang? You know, the higher the realm, the harder it is to kill. Let's not talk about high realm and strong strength. Every strong man with a high realm must have means to save his life. If you want to kill, unless you are absolutely suppressed by combat power, you want to do it. It's as difficult as climbing the sky. The elder was taken aback when he heard this. We didn't kill it. Not you. Dean Yan heard this, and asked in confusion, who is that? Could it be someone from the Yinjianzong? The elder still shook his head and said, I heard that Yi Chubai's master has arrived. It took only 2 moves to wipe out Eunuch Ming and Shura's iron cavalry. 2 tricks. Dean Yan's eyes froze. If I let him do it, I'm afraid he can do it too. In other words, the opponent's strength is not inferior to your own. And possibly stronger. Who is Yi Chubai's master? Dean Yan couldn't think of it, but there was no need to think about it. After all, Yi Chubai is now a student of their Tibetan Taoist Academy, so there is no enmity. This is enough. At the same time, Lu Changsheng had brought Xiao He back to the thatched cottage. Lu Shu sensed Xiao He's presence. Can't help but wonder in my heart. Why did you accept another evildoer? Or the body of a demon? Lu Changsheng pointed to a wooden house and said, you will live in that one from now on. Xiao He scratched his head, nodded and said, okay, master, what am I doing now? What? Lu Changsheng said speechlessly, of course it's cultivation. Didn't I just teach you a body training method? You just need to practice according to the exercises. Xiao He scratched his head, and said, but master, the body training method you gave me seems a bit special. Special? What kind of special law? Xiao He thought for a while, and said, it seems that the first layer needs to be tempered in an extremely hot place. Extremely hot place. Lu Changsheng thought about it, but there seems to be no thatched cottage. But in order for Xiao He to quickly increase his strength and obtain system rewards, Lu Changsheng said, okay, I'll ask. After finishing speaking, he left the thatched cottage and went to where Qin Tianan was. At the moment, Qin Tianan was practicing, when suddenly, there was a voice in front of him. Uncle Qin, is there an extremely hot place in our academy? Qin Tianan opened his eyes immediately, and said in surprise, when did you come? Lu Changsheng said, just now. Qin Tianan. Apart from being speechless, I was more surprised. He didn't feel Lu Changsheng's breath at all. And look at Lu Changsheng's appearance. He didn't deliberately hide his breath at all. Could it be that this guy has a magic weapon to hide his aura? Qin Tianan shook his head, and said helplessly, a place of extreme heat. Let alone our academy, even in the entire southern region, there is no such place. But why are you looking for an extremely hot place? Lu Changsheng curled his lips and said, "It's okay, as long as my apprentice's skills need to be practiced in an extremely hot place." After finishing speaking, he left this place. Apprentice. Qin Tianan was taken aback. Yi Chubai was in the central region. Hongying and Ning Chenxin both don't know where they are. Could it be that this kid has taken in an apprentice again? Before he had time to ask questions, Lu Changsheng had disappeared. Seeing this, I couldn't help feeling short of breath. Lu Changsheng returned to the thatched cottage and touched his chin. Academy does not. North the South region. So what should I do now? How about making one yourself? But, how to do it? After thinking for a while, Lu Changsheng looked at the little bird beside the willow tree. As if feeling Lu Changsheng's gaze, the bird opened his eyes and saw Lu Changsheng walking towards him. His expression on his face. Can't help being a little vigilant. Lu Changsheng rubbed his hands and said with a smile, "Bird, don't you know how to breathe fire? How about you make a pool of flames?" Little bird. Lu Changsheng continued, "Look, I've raised you for so long, so I won't even refuse to agree to this request, right?" Little bird. After hesitating for a while, a sound transmission actually entered Lu Changsheng's mind. "My flame is very domineering, I'm afraid that fool can't bear it." Cannot bear. Lu Changsheng shook his head and said, "I should be able to bear it, it's okay, just watch it, let him try it first." Little bird was a little speechless and nodded. Then, Lu Changsheng called Xiao He over. A large pit was opened in an open space. Let Xiao He jump in. Xiao He did not suspect him, so he did. Seeing this, the little bird also flew above the big pit. Long beep. That voice did not match the bird's figure at all. Beware. The sound of long ringing spread throughout the academy. Immediately, a raging flame ignited all over the bird's body. The flames burned and distorted the surrounding space. You know, the entire mountain in the Caotang has been reinforced with space. At this moment, the raging flames also fell into the big pit at this moment. Swept towards Xiao He. Ah! For a moment, Xiao He let out a cry of pain. Lu Changsheng was above, with a nervous expression on his face, his breath was completely locked on Xiao He, and he was paying attention to the situation inside. If something goes wrong, Lu Changsheng will rescue Xiao He. Xiao He, run the exercises and temper your body. Xiao He gritted his teeth and nodded in the middle of the fire pit. Immediately, there was no more sound. Time passed for a while. Little bird looked at Xiao He among them, but still gritted his teeth and persisted. Moreover, the flesh body seems to be somewhat accustomed to this flame. Can't help being a little surprised. Her fire of nirvana, although suppressing a lot of power, is still not something ordinary people can bear. Thinking of this, the little bird flapped its wings. The power of the flame has increased a bit. In the sea of flames, Xiao He's body trembled. Grit your teeth tightly. Seeing this, Xiao now couldn't help thinking to himself. This silly boy's perseverance is not bad. After speaking, the flames around him dissipated. However, the flames in the pit are still burning. After a while, Xiao He is still persisting. On the body, there are lines of flames that start to spread. Exudes a fiery red luster. Breath is also rising steadily. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng also felt relieved. There should be no problem. Lie back on the bamboo chair. And the little bird was shocked. Where did you get this monster? Before there was Yi Chubai, as if he was born with a sword. Hongying again, the reincarnation of the ancient empress. Although Ning Chenxin has no realm, he is quite profound in Confucianism and Taoism. Now, another little black with an unparalleled body. There are so many monsters in this wild land. The little bird said it was numb. The other side. Yi Chubai has arrived at Yinjianzong. Chapter 95 Hidden Sword Sect. Hidden Sword Sect. As one of the two major. The power in Zhongyu is at its peak. At the same time, it is also a holy place that sword cultivators in the world yearn for. When Yi Chubai and others arrived at Yinjianzong, they felt its essence. Yinjianzong is located on a mountain peak. This mountain peak, like a sharp sword, goes straight into the sky. Towering. The top of the mountain is covered in the clouds. Yi Chubai looked at it, and he could feel the extremely sharp sword intent contained in this sword edge. It's as if the edge of this sword is a supreme sword. Beside Liang Feng explained The hidden sword sect is divided into 3 places, and the foot of the mountain is where the disciples of the outer sect are. The mountainside is an inner disciple. The place near the top of the mountain is the direct disciple, and the top of the mountain is the place where the elders of the sect and the suzerain are. Yi Chubai nodded. Liang Feng continued, if the disciples want to climb up, not only depends on the contribution of the sect, but also depends on the strength of their swordsmanship. If any one of them fails to achieve it, they will not be able to climb up. The level distribution of hidden sword sect is very strict. Go up to enjoy more resources. The higher you go, the stronger the sword intent on the blade, which is also very beneficial for the disciples' understanding. Yi Chubai asked, what about you? Liang Feng shrugged when he heard the words, and said, naturally he is a direct disciple. Yipan's inner elder also said, Liang Feng is the suzerain's direct disciple. Yi Chubai nodded. To be the only person who went to the academy to seek Taoism, identity, talent and strength are naturally indispensable. At this time, on the mountain peak, an old man came down with a sword. Came in front of Yi Chubai and the others. Is this the person sent by the academy? The elder of the inner dean greeted him, and said with a smile, that's right, due to some reasons, a student was changed halfway. The elder of Yinjianzong nodded. This kind of thing has nothing to do with him. He looked at Liang Feng and said, Liang Feng, go to the peak, the suzerain is looking for you. Liang Feng was taken aback for a moment, then nodded, turned his head to look at Yi Chubai, and said, I'll go to master first, and I'll come to you for a discussion later. Hearing these words, the elder of Yinjianzong was also slightly surprised. You know, Liang Feng is extremely proud in Yinjianzong. There are very few disciples who can be looked up to by him. He also has this qualification. Because Liang Feng's kendo talent is too high. The elder couldn't help but look at Yi Chubai more, it seems that this son is not simple. Hearing this, Yi Chubai nodded. Liang Feng left. The elder of the inner dean also said to Yi Chubai, okay, you can practice here for a while with peace of mind, and then go back to the academy. Yi Chubai thought for a while, and said, Elder, I will go back to the southern region directly. He is going to ask Master about Mu Ziqing's physique. I don't know if Master can solve it. The elder nodded and said, that's fine, but be careful about the revenge of the Sunset Dynasty. Yi Chubai nodded. After the elder of the inner dean nodded towards the elder of Yinjianzong, he also left here and returned to the academy. The elder of Yinjianzong glanced at Yi Chubai, then stepped forward with his sword, and said, follow me. Yi Chubai looked at the elder Yu Jian, thought for a while, and also took out the wooden sword. Wrap it in aura and let it fly. Immediately stood up. Just wanted to borrow a wooden sword to rise against the wind. However, after flying 5 meters slowly, it became unstable and swayed from side to side. The elder in front seemed to be aware of it, and said lightly, use the sword intent to block the airflow in the space. Yi Chubai did as he was told. The sword intent enveloped the wooden sword, and sure enough, the sword was successfully raised once. The elder was surprised when he saw this. Although flying with a sword is not a profound method. But it is very difficult to succeed once and master it. The elder didn't say anything. He slightly increased his speed and flew towards the mountainside. Yi Chubai slowly followed. The speed is also getting faster. Gradually, I also mastered this method. The elder was in front, nodding slightly. This kid has a good understanding. Soon. Came to a cave. You can live here temporarily, tomorrow, you can enter the sword mound. After speaking, the elder left. Yi Chubai looked around. Here, located on the mountainside, is the place where inner disciples live. The surrounding sword intent is also many times stronger than that at the foot of the mountain. No wonder the hidden sword sect is known as the Holy Land of Sword Cultivators. When Yi Chubai wanted to enter the cave to heal his wounds, a few disciples walked over. The head of the person looked stern and arrogant, holding a sheathed long sword in his hand. Are you a new disciple? Yi Chubai shook his head. Not a disciple of hidden sword sect. Immediately, the stern man came to his senses and said, you are the student sent by the academy to go to Zhanjiang to practice. Yi Chubai was noncommittal. It doesn't look like a powerful swordsman. The person behind the stern man spoke. Zhangdao Academy is not a place that specializes in swordsmanship, so naturally it cannot be compared with our hidden sword sect. Wouldn't it be a waste for such a person to enter the sword tomb? You know, we are not qualified to enter the sword mound to practice. Hearing these words, the stern man also turned cold. Yi Chubai ignored these words and wanted to enter the cave. But at this time, the stern man obviously didn't want to let Yi Chubai go easily, raised the sheathed long sword in his hand, and said to Yi Chubai, "Let's have a fight." Yi Chubai ignored it. If it is normal, he may accompany you. But the other party was disrespectful. And he himself wants to recuperate his physical condition. After all, it was just a battle, so it is impossible not to get injured. After all, the opponent is ranked 7th in the 4 regions martial arts list. The realm is much higher than Yi Chubai. He wants to enter the sword tomb in the best condition. Seeing that Yi Chubai didn't pay attention, the stern man's expression turned cold, and he said, "Is it my generation of sword cultivators who don't even have the guts to fight? Then what kind of sword repair do you deserve?" Yi Chubai walked into the cave without stopping. Leave one sentence blank. I just don't think it's necessary. Hear this. Everyone was taken aback for a moment. Immediately flew into a rage. Obviously, Yi Chubai didn't take them seriously. The same is true. The stern man shouted. Then wait until you come out of the sword mound. After finishing speaking, he took people away from this place. After entering the cave, Yi Chubai sat down cross-legged, running the Taichu sword meridian to repair the damaged meridians of the body. It was the next day. Yi Chubai was interrupted by a voice outside the cave. "Brother Yi, it's time to go to Zhangzhong." Yi Chubai walked out of the cave, and when he saw it, it was Liang Feng. Just listen to Liang Feng said. "I'll take you there. When the time comes, after you come out of the sword mound, remember to discuss with me." Yi Chubai readily agreed. He still has a good impression of Liang Feng. The opponent is also worthy of his sword. After finishing speaking, the two headed towards the place where the sword mound was located. And the news that the academy students are about to enter the sword mound to practice has also reached the ears of the disciples of the Hidden Sword sect. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 96 Sword Tomb. Zhangzhong, the hidden realm of Zhangzhong. When the Hidden Sword sect masters fall, their sabers will return to the sword mound. On top of it, there may be its inheritance. It is rumored that there is a sword of a sword master in the sword mound. It is also the last sword master in this continent, the founding ancestor of the Hidden Sword sect, and the sword of the Cloud Hidden Sword Master. The position of the sword mound is not above the edge of the sword. Instead, it's inside the blade. Need to enter from the top of the blade. Along the way, Liang Feng explained, the reason why the sword edge surrounds the sword intent is because of the sword mound in the sword edge. The sword intent of Zhangfeng is so majestic, how many sword intents are there in the sword mound? Yi Chubai nodded and said, "Are there any restrictions in the sword mound?" Liang Feng smiled and said, "There are no restrictions, you will understand after you go in. However, if you can't bear the sword intent in it, remember to back away, or you will be crushed by the sword intent in it." Yi Chubai asked, "What about you? Have you ever been in?" Hearing this, Liang Feng shrugged his shoulders and said, "I have gone in twice. The first time, I just walked 10 steps, and I couldn't bear it. The second time, I advanced 80 meters, which is my limit." Speaking of this, Liang Fengsheng was afraid that Yi Chubai would look down on him, so he hurriedly explained, "Don't underestimate the 80 meters. After reaching 60 meters, the sword will be comparable to a master of swordsmanship. Okay, you'll know when you go. For the first time, you shouldn't be able to go very far." Yi Chubai smiled, but did not reply. Arrived at the peak. At the entrance of the cave, there are 2 old men. 2 old men, although they can't see the realm. But the vague sword intent is impossible to ignore. Yi Chubai looked at it, his heart trembled. As far as these 2 old men are concerned, they must be stronger than eunuch naming. It seems that the so-called 4 regions martial arts list cannot include all the powerful people in the world. Liang Feng stepped forward, talked to the 2 old men, then turned his head to look at Yi Chubai, and said, "Okay, it's okay. However, if you feel that you can't bear it, you have to back away immediately." Yi Chubai nodded. Immediately, under the eyes of the 3 of them, they walked into the cave. Wait until Yi Chubai goes in. Many disciples have gone to the place near the sword mound. They want to see how far this student from the academy can go. The person who came last time only walked 5 meters for the first time. That's right, and he came out injured. Brother Liang walked 10 meters for the first time. That must not be compared with senior brother Liang. Although the Tibetan Taoist Academy is not weak, how can it compare with our hidden sword sect in terms of sword cultivation? Everyone nodded. This is not arrogance. Yin Jianzong, the first holy place of sword repair, is a true fact. No one can question it. Zhang Dao Academy is not weak, but after all, what they learn is quite complicated. It is incomparable with the hidden sword sect who focuses on the sword. On the other side, Liang Feng came to the place where the master of Yinjianzong was. The master of Yinjian sect, Lin Hefeng, ranked second in the 4 regions martial arts list. In the early days of the false god realm, it was even the sword sect realm. Is now known as the number 1 swordsman in the mainland. Of course, Lin Hefeng himself never admitted this. Master. Seeing Liang Feng coming, Lin Rufeng smiled lightly and said, "Go in." Liang Feng nodded. Then how far do you think Yi Chubai can go? Liang Feng smiled bitterly. To be honest, his kendo realm is very high, and he has reached the level of a great swordsman. And when he was seeking Taoism, he only took half a day to comprehend the inheritance on the sword wall. So the disciple estimates that he will at least not be weaker than me. Hearing this, Lin Rufeng smiled. That is indeed a good seedling who cultivates swords, and it is rare that you can admire him so much. Liang Feng was helpless. Yi Chubai is indeed very evil. Facing eunuch Ming who is number 7 in the martial arts list, he was able to fight to such an extent. Liang Feng asked himself, he still can't do it now. Even if the realm is higher than Yi Chubai. Okay, let's see how far that kid can go. At this moment, Yi Chubai has already entered the cave. Entering the cave, it was dark all the way. I don't know how long I walked. Yi Chubai could feel a sword intent gushing out from inside. Extremely sharp. Walking through this sword intent, Yi Chubai didn't stop. Here, the sword intent is so majestic. How strong is the sword intent in the sword mound? Yi Chubai couldn't help but look forward to it. Finally, Yi Chubai walked out of the cave. The scene in front of him shocked him. Sword tomb. Inside Janus. In front of him, there was a rocky slope. On the stone slope, there are swords stuck in it. On those swords, there is faint sword intent revealed. And these sword intents blend with each other, and the sword intent is extremely huge. It seems to have turned into substance. Yi Chubai approached the stone slope. Then he felt a sword intent attacking him. However, this first sword intent couldn't hurt Yi Chubai at all. Seeing this, he pondered for a while. Then walked forward. Walked on the stone slope. The ground is full of swords inserted crookedly. Some swords look very new, and some swords look very simple, and even have cracks. This is Zhangzhong. Yi Chubai bowed to Zhangzhong before continuing to step forward. 5 meters. Sword intent has reached the realm of a sword master. But he couldn't stop Yi Chubai. Keep going. 10 meters. Came to the place where Liang Feng arrived for the first time. Here, the sword intent has reached the level of a great sword master. Constantly washing Yi Chubai's body. Under the washing of the sword intent, Yi Chubai could feel some resistance, but he had a new understanding of the way of the sword. The sword intent emanating from this sword. All have different kendo moods. Yi Chubai thought for a while and sat cross-legged. Let go of defense. Let the sword intent wash over your body. Feeling the sword intent in it. Those who enter the sword tomb, no one dares to do this. Because the sword intents here are now ownerless. There will be no holding hands at all. If you let go of the defense, if you are not careful, you will be crushed by the sword intent all over the sky. Yi Chubai was able to do this entirely because of his physique. Hunyuan sword body. A long while. Yi Chubai finally opened his eyes. At this moment, he has a new understanding of the way of the sword, and the sword intent is more powerful. Just continue to walk forward. Here, it is far from his limit. 15 meters. 20 meters. 30 meters. When he came here, Yi Chubai could already feel all parts of his body. All are shrouded in sword intent. Wanton destruction. Here, Yi Chubai felt resistance. Then sit cross-legged. Enter the perception again. And it was at this moment. Outside, above the sword edge, there is a sword intent soaring into the sky. From the cave, he rushed up 30 feet. This also means that the people in the sword mound have reached the level of 30 meters. This shocked Yin Jianzong. Chapter 97 Sword Intent Breaks Night. Qingyun Sword Body. It cannot be said to be the number one physique in the ages. But with such a sword body, it can be said that he was born for the sword. More than just having a natural affinity for swords. Comprehending swordsmanship and practicing swordsmanship can also achieve twice the result with half the effort. Sword intent is the same. It can be said that one who possesses a Qingyun sword body is a natural master of swordsmanship. Plus the pill that Lu Changsheng gave Yi Chubai before. Even Yi Chubai's physical body is not weak. All these factors made Yi Chubai able to withstand the sword attack in the sword mound. Besides the sword tomb, sword intent soars 30 feet into the sky. Means that Yi Chubai has advanced 30 meters. This shocked the elder disciples of Yin Zhanzong. How long has it been since you entered? Already advanced 30 meters. And it's the first time, right? Brother Liang only advanced 10 meters for the first time. Is this kid's sword talent really so high? Before, the few people who provoked Yi Chubai in front of the cave also looked ugly when they saw this scene. Yi Chubai didn't accept the challenge at the time, not because he didn't dare, nor because he didn't have enough strength. The other party didn't take them seriously at all. This is the main reason. Look, it's moving again. At this moment, above the sword mound, the sword intent rushed to the night, and began to climb again. 35 feet. 40 feet. In the sword mound, Yi Chubai continued to move forward. Now, the sword intent within 40 feet has turned into substance, sweeping like a long river of sword intent. Yi Chubai walked in the river of sword intent. The body has been injured. However, the sword intent surrounding his body became more and more solid. In this sword mound, Yi Chubai's kendo is improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. When he reached 45 meters, Yi Chubai stopped again. Here, there is an ancient broken sword, which flew out of the sword mound at this moment, standing in front of Yi Chubai. This is inheritance. As long as Yi Chubai holds the broken sword in front of him, he can gain all the swordsmanship insights of the owner of the broken sword. See it. Yi Chubai pondered for a while, and instead of taking the broken sword, he sat cross-legged. Continue to comprehend the sword intent here. Broken sword seemed to feel that the opponent did not accept it, and plunged into the ground again, and fell silent. At the same time, Nanyu Tibetan Taoist Academy. Thatched cottage. In the fire pit, the fire of nirvana is still burning. It's like eternal immortality. And among them, stood a man. The man is not naked, his body surface is covered by quaint and mysterious flame patterns. This is the symbol of the first layer of refining the eternal demon physique. Practice the first floor, punches can crack the ground. With the physical body alone, you can fight against the Qianyuan realm powerhouse. Even, if he hadn't reached the peak of Qianyuan realm, he might not even be able to catch Xiao Hei's punch. The fire of nirvana in the fire pit suddenly erupted. With Xiao Hei at the center, a vortex of flames actually formed. Under Xiaonao's astonished eyes, the fire of nirvana was completely absorbed by Xiao Hei at this moment. Flow into those flame lines. The flame patterns seemed to flow with scorching flames, imprinted on the surface of Xiao Hei's body. Seeing this scene, Xiaonao was even more shocked. The fire of nirvana is one of the top fires in the world. Its power can burn everything in the world. Although the strength is controlled, the power is still not small. It is not something that ordinary people can bear. But Xiao Hei can not only bear it, use it to practice, but also absorb it. What's happening here? Little bird is a little suspicious. Is there something wrong? Immediately, he looked at Lu Changsheng who was lying not far away, and couldn't help thinking. Where did this guy find so many monsters? How come each has its own uniqueness? At this time, the fire of nirvana has been completely absorbed by Xiao Hei. At the same time, those flame patterns were gradually buried in Xiao Hei's skin surface. As if it had never appeared before. Xiao Hei also opened his eyes at this moment, and walked out of the pit. Came to Lu Changsheng, scratched his head, and said honestly, Master, it seems to be successful. Successful. Lu Changsheng raised his eyebrows and glanced at Xiao Hei, and said, why doesn't it look like it's changed? It still looks ordinary. Xiao Hei shook his head and said, I don't know, but I feel my body is full of strength, and I really want to find someone to fight. Lu Changsheng. Looking into Xiao Hei's eyes, there is a fighting spirit in them. At the same time, there is some magic in that fighting spirit. Can't help getting up angrily, slapped Xiao He on the head, and scolded, "You little bastard, don't you want me to be your training partner? I just taught you exercises and accepted you as an apprentice. You just want to beat up master." Xiao He touched his head and said aggrievedly, "No, no." Still said no. At this moment, Qin Tianan came to the thatched cottage. Seeing this scene, he couldn't help being stunned for a moment, and said, "What is this for? Changsheng, why did you beat the apprentice?" Seeing Qin Tianan, Lu Changsheng was taken aback for a moment, then thought of something in his mind, looked at Xiao He, and said with a smile, "Okay, this training partner will come to your door, Xiao He, let Uncle Qin compete with you." Hearing this, Xiao He looked at Qin Tianan. Qin Tianan was also a little speechless, he was the head of a hospital. However, looking at Xiao He's fighting eyes, he couldn't help but smiled wryly, "Okay, let's try it. Anyway, he is still a junior, so it is good to practice with him." It happened to be able to let Lu Changsheng's new apprentice know the strength of Qianyuan realm experts. This is also good for his future martial arts path. Xiao He scratched his head honestly, and said, "Then I will be rude." After finishing speaking, before Qin Tianan could reply, he stepped on the ground with both feet and ran over. Qin Tianan smiled, put one hand behind his back, and immediately, he slapped out the other hand. Still thinking in my heart, in case I hurt the other party, I saved some strength. But, Xiao He suddenly let out a roar. The roar is deafening. It's like the roar of a monster. Immediately, he raised his fist, without any aura covering it. Just punch it out with one punch. Hit Qin Tianan. When the fist landed on Qin Tianan's palm, Qin Tianan's expression completely changed. In the palm of my hand, a huge force that people can't resist came over. Like a prehistoric beast breaking through the cage. Rushed towards Qin Tianan's body. At this moment, Qin Tianan flew upside down. Was blown away by Xiao He's punch. And Xiao He, as if he didn't enjoy himself, his eyes showed excitement. Roared again, and chased after Qin Tianan. See it. Qin Tianan immediately stabilized his figure, and didn't dare to keep his strength. Let out a deep drink. The strength of the late Qianyuan realm broke out. Before, after taking Lu Changsheng's Poyuan pill, Qin Tianan was also promoted to the late stage of Qianyuan realm. Immediately, he also greeted him with a punch. Fist and fist. All of a sudden, the thatched cottage was full of wind and clouds. Chapter 98 Hidden Dangers in the Southern Region. Qin Tianan really didn't expect it. Lu Changsheng's new apprentice is so powerful. Moreover, this is entirely physical strength. There is no aura fluctuation. It can be seen how strong its physical body is. In the thatched cottage, the waves of air kept surging. Dusty. Qin Tianan's complexion also changed for a while. Today's Xiao He has completely changed from his simple and honest appearance before. Like a fighting machine. Just this punch. It is very difficult for him to block it. At this time, Xiao He put away his fist, then raised it again, and threw it at Qin Tianan again. Seeing this, Qin Tianan's expression changed again. In a hurry, greet with both palms. But this time, Qin Tianan couldn't resist. With blood overflowing from his mouth, he flew upside down again. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng came up behind Qin Tianan in an instant, and held Qin Tianan with his palm, preventing him from falling to the ground. Immediately, a stream of pure spiritual energy injected into Qin Tianan's body, repairing the meridians in his body. A pill was also stuffed into Qin Tianan's mouth. Help him heal. This made Qin Tianan slow down. At this moment, Xiao He seemed to have lost his mind, with endless fighting intent in his eyes. The whole body is even more magical. Like a monstrous troll. Boomed towards Qin Tianan again. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng stepped in front of Qin Tianan, and immediately pointed out. The fist landed on Lu Changsheng's finger, and he couldn't advance an inch. At this time, Lu Changsheng also suddenly shouted, "Wake up!" That voice fell into Xiao He's mind. Gradually, that demonic nature began to converge. The fighting spirit in his eyes dissipated at this moment. Huh! Xiao He's eyes regained clarity, he scratched his head, looked at the scene in front of him, and said, "What happened?" Hearing this, Lu Changsheng asked, "Don't you remember anything?" Xiao He had doubts in his eyes, shook his head and said, "I don't remember." Lu Changsheng nodded. It seems that Xiao will lose his rationality during the battle. I'm afraid it's also because of his physique. Besides, Qin Tianan looked at Xiao in amazement. Then he asked Lu Changsheng, where did you find your disciple? Why are you another evildoer? Lu Changsheng spread his hands and said, just go out and find it. It can't be said to be a system task, right? Qin Tianan. He doesn't believe this set of rhetoric. Going out for a while, I found Yi Chubai, Hongying, Ning Chenxin, and now there is another little black. However, since Lu Changsheng didn't want to talk about it, Qin Tianan wouldn't pursue it either. Had no choice but to say, okay, since you have accepted someone as a disciple, then teach them well, they are all good seedlings, don't waste them. Lu Changsheng said casually, understood. At this moment, Lu Changsheng was thinking in his heart. Yi Chubai makes fish delicious. Red tassels make soup. Ning Chenxin cooks vegetarian dishes. What does Xiao do? Qin Tianan helplessly slapped Lu Changsheng, and then said, I came here to ask you for business. I am very busy. Lu Changsheng said immediately without even thinking about it. Qin Tianan. It doesn't matter if you're busy, give me time, it's very important. Qin Tianan had already figured out Lu Changsheng's character. Naturally, he will not let him run away. Then said, this matter is related to the safety of the southern region. You should know that there is a large desert in the southern region, right? Lu Changsheng shook his head, his face full of confusion, I don't know. He has never been out of thatched cottage, so he knows a hammer. Qin Tianan. In the southern part of the southern territory, an extremely unstable atmosphere appeared in the desert, and even affected the surrounding space, as if it would burst at any time. We speculate that it is possible that the secret realm is about to be born. Lu Changsheng wondered, isn't that a good thing? Not really. Qin Tianan's face was solemn, and he said, if the secret land comes, then the space in the southern region will be destroyed, and at that time, the southern region will be destroyed by nearly half. So, we decided to let the powerhouses of the southern region go to the desert to stabilize the space, and at the same time, tear a small crack and go in to explore. Lu Changsheng was puzzled. Isn't it very dangerous? Why do you want to go in? Hearing this, Qin Tianan shook his head and said, people are greedy, and it must not be easy to spread such a wide range of hiding, so this decision was made. In the face of interests, everyone is greedy. Same reason. Among ascetics, it is impossible to remain indifferent in the face of this kind of hide-and-seek. Qin Tianan didn't wait for Lu Changsheng to answer, and said, okay, I'll call you when the time comes, don't hide. After finishing speaking, he left this place. Lu Changsheng. The other side. Zhongyu, Hidden Sword Sect. All the disciples looked up at the peak. That soaring sword intent. Now it has reached 50 feet. How far can this disciple from Tibetan Taoism Academy go? It should be at the limit, and it has been a long time since I moved. No matter what, this is the first time I have reached this point, and I have already surpassed everyone. You know, Brother Liang only walked 10 meters for the first time. In the main hall of the suzerain. Liang Feng looked at this scene with dull eyes. The difference is too much. It was only the first time for him to make his sword intent soar. But Yi Chubai has already walked 50 meters. Besides, Lin Hefeng smiled and said, it seems that this kid's swordsmanship talent is not simple. Is it possible to let him come to our hidden sword sect? Hearing this, Liang Feng was taken aback. Then he shook his head and said, I don't know, but he already has a master. Oh. Lin Rufeng chuckled, then I would like to see who is so strange that he can cultivate such a genius of swordsmanship. Thinking about the scene where Lu Changsheng wiped out eunuch Ming and the Shura cavalry with 2 moves. Liang Feng smiled wryly and said, I'm afraid I'm not under you, master. You know, Lin Rufeng is the second strongest in the martial arts list. Then I'm afraid I won't be able to win over this son. While the two were talking, sword intent climbed again. And this time, extremely fast. In just a moment, it reached 60 feet. Under everyone's horrified eyes, the speed didn't slow down in the slightest. 70 feet, 80 feet, 90 feet, up to 100 feet. Just stopped. And reaching this step means that Yi Chubai has surpassed Liang Feng. Today's Liang Feng can only barely reach the 80th meter. You know, Yi Chubai entered the sword tomb for the first time. It should be over here. 100 feet. This level can no longer be achieved by relying on strength alone. Lin Rufeng was also surprised, and said, after Beizong, you have to rely on your talent in swordsmanship. If you don't get the approval of those kendo will, no matter how strong you are, you won't be able to make progress. At the moment, in the sword mound, Yi Chubai looked at the simple long swords floating in front of his eyes, with a pensive expression on his face. Is to choose one to accept the inheritance. Or keep moving forward. Immediately, Yi Chubai made a decision after glancing at the sword still stuck in the ground above. Keep going. Chapter 99 200 feet. Sword Tomb. After hundreds of feet, it doesn't depend on realm or strength. Only the talent of swordsmanship is seen. From the beginning until now, no one has climbed to the top of the sword tomb. Even Lin Rufeng, the current master of Yinjian sect, can only reach a distance of 150 meters. Yi Chubai looked around. If it is said that the sword mound is 100 meters in front of the sword mound, if you step into it, you will be attacked. Then, there is no aggressiveness in the next 100 meters. However, this sword intent seems to form a barrier of sword intent. If you want to pass, you can only break through with sword intent. Yi Chubai stepped forward and came to the first barrier. Immediately, the sword intent erupted from Yi Chubai's whole body. Form a long sword with sword intent, directly cut through the first layer of barrier. Yi Chubai didn't stop. The sword intent keeps gushing out. It turned into a huge sword again, and slashed towards the second barrier. Click. Just moments. The barrier shattered. At the same time, when the barrier was shattered, the pure power of swordsmanship merged into Yi Chubai's body. At this moment, in Yi Chubai's dantian, there is actually a sword slowly forming. In the sword mound, Yi Chubai is unstoppable, like a master of swordsmanship. Keep going. On the sword mound, the sword intent soars to the sky, climbing continuously. At this moment, it has reached 130 feet. And it only took 10 breaths of time. Everyone has long been numb. Looking at this scene, his eyes were terrified. Now, Yi Chubai has used his strength to prove his kendo talent. Also conquered all the disciples in the hidden sword school. As for the few disciples who provoked in front of the cave before, already lost face, and left here in despair. Still challenging. A person who can reach this level in the sword mound, can they challenge it? In the main hall of the suzerain, Liang Feng's expression was dull. Lin Rufeng looked up at the Changsheng sword intent, and said softly, the fifth barrier will undergo a qualitative change. I don't know if this one can break it. At this moment, Yi Chubai has broken through the fourth barrier of sword intent. Came to 140 meters. Yi Chubai waved his hand, and the sword intent swept away again. However, this time, the barrier did not burst. Just set off a series of ripples. Can't it be broken? Yi Chubai froze slightly, and then turned his palm. Sword intent erupts again. Turned into a long river of sword intent, forming a shocking wave. Rolled towards that kendo barrier. At this moment, the barrier couldn't bear it, it broke directly. Destroyed. The fragments of the barrier turned into sword intent and merged into Yi Chubai's body again. This moment, a breath burst out. At this moment, Yi Chubai's realm has broken through to the late stage of Qixi realm. It's a matter of course. Yi Chubai continued to move forward. At the sixth barrier, he used the heavenly demon 9 swords. 170 meters. The seventh layer of barriers, cut open with the seventh sword of the heavenly demon 9 swords. When reaching the eighth barrier, exercise sword domain, also crashed and shattered. And the ninth floor, 190 meters away. Neither the sword field nor the heavenly demon 9 swords can break through. At this moment, Yi Chubai closed his eyes. Long time. It opened suddenly, and there was an endless meaning surrounding the wooden sword. Yi Chubai let out a deep drink. The wooden sword in his hand suddenly slashed out. Absolute Beginning Sword Sutra. Ping Shan. The ninth barrier shattered in an instant. The outside disciples looked at this scene with horror in their eyes. Sword intent soars 190 feet into the sky. This is unprecedented. They have never heard that since the founding of the Hidden Sword sect, someone can reach this level. Suzerain Hall. Looking at this scene, Lin Rufeng was silent for a while, then sighed, and said, Liang Feng, It's your misfortune to be born in the same era as this kind of swordsman genius, and it's also your luck. Liang Feng nodded silently. In front of Yi Chubai. All kendo geniuses seem to have lost their luster. I'm afraid, in this era, only he has the opportunity to step into the realm of the sword master. Outside the sword mound, the two old men also opened their eyes, looking at this scene solemnly. In the back mountain of Yinjianzong, there is a bamboo forest. Deep in the bamboo forest, there is a bamboo house. In the bamboo hut, a gray-haired old man opened his eyes, with a sword shining in his eyes. The world is about to open, it's time. Finish these words. Aura burst out from the old man's body as well. This kind of breath is much stronger than Lin Rufeng and Din Yan. The last layer of kendo barrier. Behind the barrier. There is only one sword stuck in it. Jian Feng is simple and simple. But there is no damage at all. Yi Chubai looked over, and it was rumored that this sword was the Juggernaut Saber. Is the relic of the founder of the Yin Sword sect, Union Sword Saint. As long as you get this sword, you can get all the inheritance of Union Sword Master. This is very attractive to any sword repairer. After all, since ancient times, after that extermination war, there will be no more sword masters in the world. Yi Chubai stepped forward, the wooden sword in his hand gushing with sword energy. Ping Shan cut out again. But it is like a mud cow entering the sea. The barrier didn't move at all. Isn't there a way to cut through the sword sutra of Taichu? Yi Chubai did not leave because of this. The inheritance of the juggernaut is naturally not so easy to obtain. I can't help but think to myself. If you combine all the attacks together, make it blend with each other, will it be more powerful? Thought of this. Yi Chubai took action. The sword field is expanded. Immediately, a wisp of black magic energy began to spread in the sword field. This is the heavenly demon Nine Swords. Immediately afterwards, a sense of endless life also rose up. Absolute Beginning Sword Sutra. Yi Chubai wants to combine these three exercises together. However, when the meaning of endless life is combined with the black magic energy, the black demonic energy seemed to be restrained by the Sword Sutra of Absolute Beginning, but it was swallowed directly. No, the level of the Sword Sutra of Absolute Beginning is too high, so naturally they cannot be integrated. Next, Yi Chubai tried to control the Sword Sutra of Absolute Beginning to reduce its power. Try to find a balance in it. In this attempt, one day passed. Besides the sword tomb, all the disciples watched this scene. Secretly said it was a pity. I haven't moved for a day, I'm afraid I can't do it anymore. Well, it should be the limit, but it's enough to be proud of. It's probably coming out. In the main hall of the suzerain, Lin Rufeng watched this scene, sighed slightly, and said, "Didn't you get the inheritance from the patriarch after all?" Etc. Liang Feng suddenly stared. The soaring sword intent on the sword mound is at this moment under the terrified eyes of everyone. Climb to 200 feet. This also means that Yi Chubai has walked 200 meters to the sword tomb. That is to say, now Yi Chubai has obtained the inheritance of Union Sword Master. At this moment in the sword mound, Yi Chubai integrated three sword skills into one. Smashed the barrier and came to the ancient long sword. Reached out. Hold the hilt of the sword. At this time, a phantom appeared in the sword. After so many years, has someone finally come here? Chapter 100. The second Dantian. It's you, came here. Shu Ying looked at Yi Chubai and said, "Are you, my disciple of the hidden sword sect?" Yi Chubai shook his head. Seeing this, Shu Ying didn't show any surprise, and said, "It doesn't matter if it's not, but I see that you have an acquaintance's breath. Is it Tianmo 9 Swords and Sword Domain? You got the inheritance of the two of them." Yi Chubai nodded. "Then it is normal for you to be able to stand in front of me." Shu Ying smiled and said, "Recognized by the two of them, there is no doubt about their temperament and talent. The inheritance of this seat can be entrusted to you with confidence." After finishing speaking, Shu Ying raised his finger and tapped on the center of Yi Chubai's eyebrows. One message after another passed into Yi Chubai's mind. My seat's technique may be a bit special, but it uses Dantian Yunjian. You should have felt the process of advancing in the sword tomb, right? Yi Chubai looked inside his Dantian. At this moment, there was indeed a small sword in his Dantian. Shu Ying explained, "My whole life of swordsmanship is all in this sword." With the Dantian Yunjian, the stronger your strength and the higher your realm, the stronger the sword in the Dantian will be. If the Dantian is damaged, this sword can also be turned into a second Dantian. Yi Chubai was shocked when he heard this. The second Dantian. So, the senior has opened up another way of cultivation. Hearing the words, Xu Ying nodded. You can also understand this way, but this seat has not yet explored this path, and you need to explore and perfect it yourself in the future. I hope that you can carry forward this practice. Yi Chubai nodded. He felt the exercise information in his mind. This technique will be terrifying to practice. Possess 2 Dantians. If the 2 Dantian realms have reached the Qianyuan realm, then, who else is the opponent in the Qianyuan realm? However, it is also somewhat difficult to practice. After all, it is not possible to practice at the same time. In Jiangdan, it is not according to the usual way of cultivation. Instead, practice with sword intent. Use the Dantian to cultivate the sword pill, and at the same time practice with the sword intent. For others, the breakthrough of sword intent is already very difficult. Some people can't break through in their whole life. Then, cultivating this second Dantian will have no effect. Certainly. This is no problem for Yi Chubai. The current him has already achieved great sword intent, reaching the level of a great sword master. Now, after being tempered in the sword mound, the sword intent is much thicker. Breakthrough of Zhanzong is just around the corner. At this moment, Xu Ying waved his hand again. A token appeared in Yi Chubai's hand. On the token, there is a word, cloud, engraved. This is the token of Yunwang's secret realm. Only by holding this token can you enter. Calculating the time, it's time for the secret realm to come. I hope you can grasp it. After saying these words, the phantom gradually began to dissipate. Yi Chubai held the token and bowed respectfully to the simple long sword. After a while, he got up and left Zhanzong. Outside the sword mound, the 2 old men watched Yi Chubai come out, and said, Go to the main hall of the suzerain has something to do with you. Yi Chubai nodded. In the main hall of the suzerain. Yi Chubai came here. Liang Feng had been waiting here for a long time. Seeing Yi Chubai approaching, he hurriedly stepped forward and asked, How did you do it? Yi Chubai smiled. If you want to do it, you can do it. Hearing this, Liang Feng couldn't help but helplessly said, I really admire you. You got the inheritance in Chudao Mountain before, and now you have taken away the inheritance of my hidden sword sect. You don't give others a chance to survive at all. Yi Chubai spread his hands, expressing his innocence. He can't help it either. Strength does not allow it. Okay, let's go see my master first, and then we will discuss it again. I want to see what the inheritance in the sword mound is. Yi Chubai nodded in agreement. Then walked into the hall. Lin Rufeng put his hands behind his back, saw Yi Chubai coming in, and said with a smile, That's right, he's much better than Liang Feng. Liang Feng, who came in behind Yi Chubai, heard it, and couldn't help but look depressed. Master, don't bring such hurtful things. Lin Rufeng smiled and said, I just told the truth. Originally, Lin Rufeng wanted to win Yi Chubai into Yinjianzong. But hearing from Liang Feng that Yi Chubai has a master who is not weaker than him, he dismissed the idea. Lin Rufeng looked at Yi Chubai, and said with a kind smile, Since you have obtained the inheritance from the patriarch, then the hidden sword sect is also your backing. If you have any problems in the future, you can come to me directly. In this way, Yi Chubai was also attracted. Yi Chubai nodded, Thank you, suzerain. Seeing that Yi Chubai accepted his kindness, Lin Rufeng couldn't help laughing and said, As for the inheritance of the patriarch, I won't bother. Those who are capable can naturally get the inheritance, otherwise it's useless. Liang Feng. Is this implying him again? What are your plans after that? Hearing this, Yi Chubai said, I think I'll go back to the teacher's school first. Lin Rufeng nodded, then waved his hand, and a token appeared in front of Yi Chubai. Liang Feng was also taken aback when he saw this. He doesn't even have this token. This is the order of the suzerain of the hidden sword sect. If there is anything, please come to me with this order. Yi Chubai did not refuse, thanked him and took it. Immediately after another conversation, Yi Chubai left the suzerain hall. Liang Feng followed up, and said with a smile, How about it, go to the sparring now? Or should you recover first? Need not. Yi Chubai said, Let's go now. The two came to an open space. There is no one here. Is where Liang Feng usually practiced his sword. Liang Feng took out his sword and said, "Let's start." Yi Chubai nodded, and also took out the wooden sword. At this moment, the sword intention burst out unreservedly. The realm of the great sword master is undoubtedly revealed. Liang Feng felt the sharpness of the sword, and his face was solemn. Now, although he has also reached the realm of a great swordsman, his sword intent is strong, but he is far behind Yi Chubai. Think here. Liang Feng made a move. With a low shout, the body burst out. Dancing with the long sword in his hand. The sword energy turned into a sword net, cutting towards Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai remained motionless, with an expressionless expression. Flip your palm lightly, and the sword will melt into a river. Sweep towards that sword net. No block. The sword net was directly washed away by the river of sword intent. Liang Feng's face changed, and the sword intent also spewed out. Transformed into long swords, resisting the river of sword intent. At the same time, a printing method was played. Around Yi Chubai, a sword formation actually formed. Want to kill him? Yi Chubai let out a faint laugh, and stomped on the ground. Sword field spread. In the sword domain, Yi Chubai is the absolute master. The sword array is vulnerable to a blow under the sweeping sword intent. Liang Feng looked at this scene, with a wry smile on his face, and stopped moving. I really don't know how you cultivate. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.